Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the We Built an Empire podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Wolff. Today's episode was truly one of a kind. I'm not going to waste any more time getting into it. So without further ado, my friend, Jerayll Allen.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
You gotta fucking count it.
We're doing the real thing. I don't have the clap of pause though that you have like on the live push button, but
oh yeah, no man, you gotta step your game up, man. You gotta get the effects in there,
yeah.
bro.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I need a real push pad over here, whatever it is. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great, man. It's good to see you, man. It's good to see your face, man. It's been
Me too, brother.
It's been a while, man.
Yeah, even though it's a digital conversation, it's still a real one today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Been keeping up with you on Instagram a ton. Instagram's weird for me because sometimes I feel like, it's kind of like listening to a favorite podcast guest. If they're a friend of yours, you end up thinking you're having a conversation with them like every day,
Right.
and then you see them in person,
right.
Oh man, and it's like I haven't talked to you in 2 years. That's really weird.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of it's like a way you can like keep up with people, but at the same time, not really. I mean, you kind of know what's going on, but not like everything. Because I definitely, don't post a lot of my life on social media, especially now. I use it mostly just for pod stuff, promoting. Do a lot of jiu-jitsu on there as well. Just part of my brand, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, but outside of that, man, it's not that much. It's so fucking weird now. Like it's kind of like distorted people's sense of reality so much.
I was just talking about that to a friend like less than 30 minutes ago. He's got some younger kids, a little bit older than mine, but he's like, man, I was trying to explain to them that, when we were raised, we're looking outward, we're looking out the world. And now you're looking, everything is in, it's on a device or it's, and I'm like, man, it's the best. I think from our generation, social media is like, we still understand it and it can be the best and worst thing ever. If you let it, it's a scary thing. It's a real scary deal. It's like when I see my kids like sitting on that screen and you're like, man, let's go. And they're always willing to go do whatever. But I would not want to be born today. I guess I would say.
Yeah, because it's I won't let my kid do social media at all, right? Like it's really like she has a YouTube channel because my kid's an artist, so she does like a lot of edits and stuff like that. So for those type of things, man, that's cool. But like she doesn't have like her own like Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, anything like that, man. I just felt like growing up was already hard enough. Especially when you're talking about when you're developing your self-esteem and finding out who you are as a person, man, to add that on top of it, like this, because I mean, kids are already fucking brutal, man. Kids are assholes.
They are the meanest people on the planet.
Yeah, because, and sometimes it's not really necessarily their fault because like they always they don't know the consequences. They don't know how this shit's going to affect people like later on in life. Right.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of so to be able to grow up through that and deal with that and try to develop your self-esteem was already hard enough. When you add like the whole fucking internet on top of it, like people judging you that has never met you before, you know what I'm saying? They've never because it's even like, because a lot of times we forget, man, like with people that end up becoming like memes or go viral for like the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Now, like we forget that these are actual people, like with lives. You know what I'm saying? And like,
dude. Oh, but like I got a comment the other day, and I had to laugh. Like at first, it was so wild. I'm using my phone to record, but I'll pull it up. But it was on some post I put, and it was a video, and it got like a lot of hits, a lot of likes. It was doing good, and then all of a sudden I get the bing, comments. So I like. This is the first of stuff that I'm kind of putting out like in short series, method. And dude, he was like, I think the comment was something like, "You're the plague of the earth. This is why capitalism is horrible." Like, oh, like I hope you die. I was like, oh my God, man. Like either this dude is just real bored or he's wanting me to, kind of engage with him in this negative deal. And I'm like, I have zero tolerance or appreciation for like negative anything. I'm like, nobody needs that in their life. Like I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to respond to it. It's just going to live there on that post forever. But I had to laugh because this is like, I don't know this guy. And it goes,
Right.
It didn't even start at 0. It just went to 100. Boom. You're the plague of the world. I fucking hate you. I hope you die. I was like, God damn.
Yeah. And it's so strange, man. Like, right. Okay. So not long ago, I talked about this on my Easily Offended podcast, right? So I went to a WNBA game, right? So the Chicago Sky are good. They won the WNBA title last year. Like one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time, Candace Parker, she plays for the Chicago Sky. So good friend of mine, she does some work with them. So I was able to get like courtside seats, right? So I make this reel on Instagram about the experience. This is my first time at the game, right? And the reel does like pretty well, better than anything I've ever posted on Instagram. It had like well over 10,000 views. So I got to see like a little bit of the underbelly of the internet, right? Because I was just getting like these random fucking comments, man.
Oh yeah.
From like it was just like, how much did they have to pay you to say you enjoyed it? And it's just like it's too much LGBTQ stuff going on there. It's just like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
I just posted a moment in my life that I loved. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
I had a good time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you? And then one dude asked like how Brittany Griner did, and like she's in fucking jail in Russia, dude. Everybody knows that. It's just like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Like what? Like I just understand, but people. But just like you said, I think a lot of people are trolls, and they just want people to engage with them.
Yeah.
In other words,
yeah. Even if it's negative, right? Attention's an attention.
Negative.
Yep.
Yeah.
So hey, real quick, let's just get into it. So what? You mentioned one of your podcasts. That's why I want to have you on today because you got 2 things you're sort of working on. We chatted about it last night a little bit, but yeah, what do you got going on? What's up with these? I see you on Instagram. I see you're doing some really cool stuff, especially with your new podcast that's you solo by yourself. And I'm excited for you to talk about it. I'm excited to discuss it with you because I think it's a huge, powerful tool. And I'm just, like I said last night, you posted a video, made me be like, all right, shit or get off the pot, man. Let's do this. So yeah, what do you got going on?
So I have a 914 Media Group, and the podcast I do through that is Channel 914. So that started, my first episode dropped on June 17th of this year, so it's still really new. My 7th episode actually will drop tomorrow, the day we're recording this, August 26th. And yeah, man, it really just was a kind of I've been trying to figure out a way. So I've been thinking about doing something like this for a long time, right? And and it's kind of one of those things where like everybody's doing podcasts, so it's just like like what's going to make me stand out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that fear that makes you not want to execute at times, right? But what eventually what ended up happening with me was, man, like I guess kind of like this wind of inspiration. So just to backtrack a little bit, good friend of mine last year, when I first started, the wheels really started first turning about, man, like me doing something. But it's just like, I don't know the first thing about it, right? So it just so happened that a good friend of mine, a guy named Larnell, that I grew up with, he, like after I like had this whole, like I'm praying about it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm really just like trying to like figure out, okay, like how do I do this? What do I do? And he just hits me up like, just tells me kind of like haphazardly that, yeah, I'm starting this podcast. I was like, oh, that's fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Let me help you. Because so one of the things I thought about initially was like, okay, I see people all the time starting stuff, want to start podcasts, posting stuff on YouTube, and they may actually have some pretty decent content, something like really cool to say, but their production value is shit, right? And mostly it sounds terrible. So I feel like just, I mean, we met in fucking Crass, I have an audio background, even though I don't really do that type of work anymore, like I know very basic things that, like how to make it, at least something sound good, and like just to make it look like I give a shit actually about what I'm putting out.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, let me help you, right? Like, so we can kind of help each other. So I'm just going to be behind the scenes. I'm going to like, just help you guys record, make sure your sound is good, man, set up everything. And that's where it started for the first few episodes. And then one of the guys ended up quitting. So when the guy quit, they asked me to step in. At the time, I didn't know if it was going to be permanent or not, but it's been permanent. So I've been on the camera and still doing everything behind the camera. So after I was doing that for a while, so I kind of had this idea that I want to like produce quality content. I never thought of myself at first as being like the focus of that content.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to like, put something into the ecosystem that's gonna, be good and it's gonna, have some sort of quality and life to it, right?
Sure.
And then trying to like get other people, I was working with a few people, but once you find out pretty quick is like the quickest way to do it is to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I kind of, it just hit me one day, man. I was just like, once I thought of like a name, the Channel 914 thing just kind of came to me. 914 is for September 14th, which is my brother's birthday. So yeah, man, once I named it, it just kind of took off, dude. I went out and I just bought a bunch of fucking equipment. I never owned like a video camera before. I went out and bought this Rodecaster. It's kind of like a mixing console, kind of like an all-in-one podcasting solution. It's pretty cool. So I just went, man, and bought a bunch of shit, and I just started filming. I got on Canva. I never designed a logo before. I designed my own logo.
Dude, Canva has saved the world from people with zero talent when it comes. Like, you could tell, you're like, that's a really good logo, but I could never do that in Photoshop. And then Canva came along, and then everybody's a professional designer anymore. They're just, and they'll rip some shit off Canva. I'll put this together as my idea. Look at it. It's like, bitch, I've seen that on Canva too. Like, you didn't invent that. You just changed the colors.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm definitely not saying I invented any fucking thing. But, this is my logo. This is my combination of shit that I got from Canva, right? But it works, you know? And so it just really is like, so for one, it's about like honoring my brother, like kind of keeping his name and his legacy alive. Mm-hmm. But it was also just about like you just said, like this podcasting thing, man, is like a really, really, really powerful tool that I feel like really isn't necessarily being used properly right now. So I really kind of feel like it's something that we need to treat with the proper respect. And I feel like, for not say everybody, but a large majority of people are kind of like, it's used for a lot of like misinformation, a lot of like people to voice their opinions, mm-hmm. however, no matter how fucked up those opinions may be. You know what I'm saying? So and it's just like a lot of negativity, man. And I really just I feel like, I have something to offer the universe in this regard. So I just say, fuck it, man. Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. And it's been going all right. Like I said, I'm only a couple months in. Yeah. So, but it's going well, man. I'm enjoying it, and that's the best part of it. I had some really cool interviews. I realized I know like a lot of cool people. Yeah. It's crazy how many people, like I was talking to, so Tommy Wright, shout out, he's a production engineer on the back of this, but we were just chopping it up the other day, and I was just like putting names out there, and he's like, well, who's that person? And I would tell like a bit of what I know is their story, and he'd be like, oh, that sounds like a really cool episode. And then he would name the people, and it's really weird. Like in your immediate circle, if you've lived a little while on this planet, like you end up knowing, even if you don't think of them in that manner, right? Like we interviewed Justin Roberts the other day. I was talking to you last night about it. Like he's on tour with Imagine Dragons right now, and I thought his episode was definitely wild and out of control, but it was fun as hell. And it's like, I told him, I said, man, it's crazy. Like these people, on a lot of them, not everybody I know personally that I'm talking to, but a lot I do. And maybe it's for 15 or 20 years, or maybe it's 2.
but that it's like, it's at, what is that, 7 degrees of bacon? It's like if within like 7 degrees of like friendship, you have a connection with Kevin Bacon or something ridiculous, right? Or something. You ever heard about that?
I've heard of 7 degrees of separation. I've never heard of 7 degrees of bacon.
It's something ridiculous, but like you'd be surprised. Like this person knows this person, and like and inevitably everybody has a story. And most people that I found out, you know, I've got a big blurb. Like you saw it when I sent it out. Like, hey, you know, you want to be on the? Actually, no, you were like, hell yeah, I'll be on it. But everybody else, like, I'll send out like a, you know, here's kind of what this thing's about. Here's what we're doing. I'd love to have you on. And it gives a breakout of it. And I've had a lot of people call me and be like, well, I don't really have a story, you know? And I'm like, hold on. I've known you for maybe some of these people like 6 months, you know? And I'm like, hey, in that little bit of time, the impact that I've seen you make on me, these 3 other people, your community, like that's a story, you know? And then as we start to talk about it, you know, people sort of start to relax and they get in this groove. They realize I'm not out here to just like make them look a fool on camera. Then they start to open up and it's like, wow, like, okay. And then, but then inevitably somebody, it doesn't matter, you know, it could be one person that hears this story. It could help them out. Right.
Yeah. No doubt.
I mean, it could be them listening to this could be totally therapeutic. I was just telling my same friend today that was dealing with his son's issue. He was like, why are you doing this? I was like, be honest, this is selfish. And he's like, what? And I was like, you know, I, like other people, struggle from everything in life. Like I've had bouts of depression, you know, anxiety, you know, things of that nature. And I said, but talking to people long form and hearing their stories, there's always a correlation. It doesn't matter, you know, race, ethnicity, creed. That's all to the side because you can relate to somebody. And it's a very therapeutic thing for me selfishly. But in turn, letting that person tell their story, at least from in my experience, everybody has come back and been like, man, that was really awesome. Like I've never had the opportunity to just tell anything about me. And it feels good. It's like, it's a big, huge, gigantic, like weight off of some people's shoulders sometimes to be like, and then at the end of it, they're like, actually, you know what? I do have a story. They start to kind of feel good about themselves. So I do feel like it's powerful in so many different ways, you know?
Oh, sorry, I mean to cut you off.
You good? No worries.
No, because it's funny we talk about, man, because, you know, like you and I met probably in one of the most challenging times of my life.
I would say so. Not to laugh, but dude, I remember glimpses of being like, oh, dude, he's not doing good. Like, like, oh, this is not good, Jerayll.
Yeah, man, it was rough, man. You know, just kind of being out there in Arizona, and, you know, trying to do this whole audio engineering thing, and then ended up like, you know, having a baby during that time, without having any money, having, you know, taking all my resources to go down there. But it builds character, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you were halfway across the country, man, from where you live. By the way, I mean, you do live in Chicago. For those that don't know you, we're again, we know each other on a really well level. So it's like we're skipping over a lot of stuff that we already know. So just for those listening, Jerayll lives in Chicago. We went to school at the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences in Tempe, Arizona, right? Halfway across the country, you know, and then to put on top of that, have a baby in the middle of this ridiculous school. The school schedule was out of control. None of us got sleep. We were all drinking too much. All of us were competitive enough to be like, if that dude got an A in that class and anybody else got a B, it was like, fuck, that dude got the B.
Yeah, no. And yeah, we really were super competitive, man. And I honestly think like me being able to focus on that stuff. And I mean, the fact that I was still able to like keep up with you guys, because like, I mean, mentally, I was just like, what the fuck? Like every day, it just seemed like something else was going on. But, you know, looking back on it, and it's funny because obviously I am not an audio engineer, right? Yeah. But so first off, just dealing with all of that adversity at that time and then still being able to come out of it, you know, but also just like some of those small principles like troubleshooting and things like that, me working in IT, you know, just kind of like those simple, just like, you know, that signal flow, you know, start with the simplest thing first and work your way down. That helped me in my actual career. Yeah. you know? So it's just like, you never know, man. You go through these experiences and you never know like how it's going to help you. Like when you're going through it, it's just like, I was talking about this the other day. It's kind of like when you watch a Karate Kid and, you know, and Mr. Miyagi is making Danielson do all this dumbass shit, like you know, painting his fence and waxing his car.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, why the fuck am I doing this? And then when he actually shows him, like, you know, oh, okay, this actually makes sense now. This is, you know, this is going to help me in the long run. But when you're going through it, it's just like, man, this is bullshit.
Yeah. What do we need to, this is garbage, you know?
Right,
and it was
know?
a taxing, you know, it seems weird. So basically it's is it like an associates type program? I don't know.
Yeah, I look at it as like a certificate. Like, so it's like, so it's almost like a, it was a certificate program, basically, but it's like for audio engineering, right? So like in that realm, that certificate would be respected.
Yeah.
But like, obviously, in the IT world, that certification doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Right?
They're like, oh, that's good. Cool. You start at the bottom.
Excuse me. Right. Funny story though, because my first, so that was in 2008, which is also 2007 to 2008 when we were down there.
Yeah.
So my kid was born in 2008. I come back to Chicago, and so I find a job finally after like a year. I was unemployed for the first year I got home. I was doing the interning and stuff, but obviously I'm not making any fucking money, right? So I'm doing whatever I can. I'm working like little odd jobs here and there, like little live sound gigs or like little bullshit bars where they pay me like $50. You know, I mean, whatever I could do, man. I mean, if I can buy some formula, some Pampers or something with it, man, I'm gonna do it, right? So finally, I get this job. A friend of mine was working for Chicago Housing Authority. So it's like with the Section 8 vouchers, shit like that.
Gotcha.
Horrible fucking job. And coincidentally, it's also the only job I've ever been fired from. Yeah, man. Yeah. They fired me after like 3 months. It was so wild. I don't even know if it was that long. It was like I got hired in like maybe late August, early September, and like by December I was out of there. Right. So I got fired from there. So then I actually ended up getting an interview with this University of Chicago. And basically it was because a friend of mine was an HR manager. Excuse me, a friend of mine, she's like a sister to me. Her mom was an HR manager for the University of Chicago. So she knew about this job coming up. She was just like, okay, you know, I'm gonna recommend you for it. You can get an interview. So I, put my resume together, and it was like basically setting up these video conferencing systems, and like teaching people how to use them, operating them. And it was only supposed to be for a contract. So I was only supposed to do it for like a few months, basically set them up, teach them how to use them, and then they were gonna, send me on my way, right? So, but when in the interview, my boss, his name was Brian Hickey, really cool guy. I keep up with him via social media to this day. He told me, he looked at because I didn't lie, I didn't act like, but I did like Google, I researched, so I was able to talk intelligently about the video conference and all that. But I never worked with the shit before. Outside of Skype, I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the guy told me, he looked at it, and I had all my craft stuff on there, my audio engineering experience. And he was basically like, hey man, if you can wire audio rack, I'm sure you can figure this shit out. And he gave me a job. So it ended up like, yeah. So it ended up finishing the contract. They ended up hiring me on full time. So I worked there for 4 years until they laid me off. So
fucking assholes.
But yeah. But
I don't know. They might be good people, but who knows?
No, they're cool. I mean, and ironically, them laying me off was probably one of the best things that happened to me because it opened me up. It gave me like a baseline of skills to where I got my foot in the door to like the firm I work with now, where I'm actually kind of like on the back end, like designing infrastructure for our video conferencing network. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just kind of like, it was like a stepping stone thing.
Yeah. And
I went from there and having no experience and then just having experience there. And then it gave me like just a baseline to where I'm at now. But without having gone through that, I never would have been able to do what I'm doing right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's, I was talking to, it was it's my former employer actually. And I went in on an interview and it was a very same thing. And like, they knew my history. Like I had already worked for this company for a few years. I had quit them. Like, and like my boss at that time was like, no one's ever quit. I was like, well, welcome to the fucking club. And so I went and did my own company. Like I ran my own company. And then like, here we are, 7 years later, I get a call from a friend and, move the whole family to Texas, going for the interview. And like, they clearly see your chart. Like you quit here, you came back here, we've contracted with you. You did like, so I did this like whole, like, it was like a timeline. This interview was basically me doing a timeline. I fucked up here, then I did this, and then I got real crazy and started this company, and then I shut that down, had to file bankruptcy, moved my place to Texas, and here I am talking to you. But the long story short is that if I wouldn't have done all that shit, I wouldn't be at this table. And they were like, you got a fucking point. And I was like, so I don't know if it's meant to be. Ultimately, 6 months later, I ended up quitting them again and moving back to Colorado. But you know what? Fuck it. It's like, it wasn't for me. It wasn't right. Like Texas was super depressing for me, and then when COVID hit, it really allowed you to look at allowed me to look at what I was doing with my life, and I was like, I think that's probably the most depressed I've been in for a very, very long time. And so it's like when COVID hit and you had the time to really look at your life, it was like, we got to go home. We need to be around people that we want to be around and family, like, because it's, you know what I mean? Like you get a small sliver of time on this earth with people, and you never know when it's going to be gone. Like, I mean, we'll get into it here after a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like, just like with your brother, right? I mean, we talked about that last night. I don't know if you want to get into that, but it's man, people's time is impactful, and then it can be gone in an instance. And so we moved back to Colorado, and I started doing something. I do real estate, obviously on the side, but not on the side. That's my actual job. But, doing this podcast, it's like, it's just another thing of like, you do have to do things that you're passionate, that you care about, that you want to have, a bit of honor towards it. And to kind of, I don't know. I felt like COVID was for some people the best thing, and for other people is the worst thing. And not whether you were affected by it or whether you lost someone because of it, but it allowed people to have too much time of their own. And then all of a sudden it started creating like what I felt like was this like anger syndrome, right? It was like, everybody was like, we were talking about, online, and it's like, so I'm trying to do something for the betterment, not of myself, but also other people around me. So like the guests that I can bring on, it's like, I want to bring you up. Not saying that you won't surpass me, but like whatever I can do to help other people, like, man, it's just been, I feel like it's still even stuck in people's brains. Like everybody's back out in the world, we're going to concerts, we're doing everything, but I feel like people are still just they're ready to bite your neck off in like an instance. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want negative people around me. I don't want negative content around me. I want to be the host of this and be guest on other people's podcasts and do something for the good. And so it's like, that's just moving back home, like completely reordered our lives around again, but we're here, we're stuck, we're staying this time. Like we're not leaving, you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, I mean, back to it though. I mean, you have a short time on this world.
A very, very, very short time, man. And it's kind of like, things will happen to you that will completely flip your perspective. I know you mentioned my brother, man. It was so wild that definitely that changed my life, right? My brother, my big brother, man, so I never knew a world without him in it, right? He was always there, man. He was one of those, like, when I couldn't talk to anybody else, I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to anybody else about certain things, I could talk to him. And it was always like, no matter what my brother told me, and sometimes he would tell me shit that I necessarily didn't want to hear, but that I needed to hear. But if it came from here, if it came from him, I could receive it because I knew it was always coming from a place of love.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
My brother always wanted the best for me. He wasn't going to be jealous of me. He wasn't trying to tell me or like keep me away from certain things. So I could trust his word, even if it was some shit like he had to give me like a straight up and fly right, like, hey man, you fucking up out here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You need to get it together. So I kind of say like my brother was like my compass, and losing him and then like going right into that pandemic, it really like, you know, it's one of those things like I thought I was good. Because he died very, very suddenly. It wasn't like he was sick, something happened.
Yeah.
It was like, so it's actually a crazy story. So his birthday is September 14th, hence the 9/14. He died on September 12th. So 2 days before his birthday, I was at this training for a Crestron programming. I don't know if you know Crestron, right? Yeah. So I was at this Crestron programming training, right? In Schaumburg, which is like an hour outside of Chicago. So one of my brother's favorite shows was Family Guy, right? So I'm in this training, and there's this dude that looks and talks just like fucking Peter Griffin.
Oh,
shit you not. He didn't have glasses. But I'm just like, dude, this is if they were gonna do a live action Family Guy movie, he needs to be playing the fucking part. You know what I'm saying? So I posted on Facebook. I posted in the status like I'm in this training with this dude that looks and sounds like Peter Griffin. My brother comments immediately, post a picture. You know, what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right, I can't, like, you know, I don't want to be obvious. Just give me a second, you know, so you can see what he looks like. So, you know, we get a break after a couple of hours. We get a break, and I sneak a picture of the guy, right? And I posted in the comments, and, you know, I noticed that he didn't comment, but I didn't think anything of it. We go back to training. Not long after that, I'm getting a call from his wife. And I see her call me, and I send her a voicemail because I'm thinking his birthday's 2 days from now. You know, I'm thinking she's just calling me something about his birthday, right? Sure. So she calls me right back. I send her a voicemail again, and I'm just like, hey, I'm in this training. Is everything okay? She texts me back 911. So I'm like, okay, now I know something is wrong. I'm still not thinking she's going to tell me what she's about to tell me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, something is wrong with my brother. So I step outside, and I called her. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And she just says he's gone. And I'm like, what do you mean he's gone?
Yeah.
And she's just like, yeah, he's gone. And all I could think of is, okay, I'm on my way. So I hang up. I go into class. I start packing my stuff up. And the instructor is like, hey, man, is everything okay? And all I can say is, my brother just died. So everybody's just looking like, holy shit, man. So the instructor, I'm packing my shit up, man. I run out the classroom. But the instructor, I'll never forget this guy, man. He stopped me, and he just gave me a hug. And he just, you know what I'm saying? I don't even remember what the fuck he said to me, man. I remember he said something, but I'll never forget he stopped me, and he gave me a hug.
Damn.
So I'm leaving out, and it's still not really registered, right? But I'm leaving, and then my mom calls me, and she's crying. And I'm like, okay, this is real.
Fuck.
So, yeah, man, and it just kind of, I had this long drive home, and at the whole time, I'm just trying to gather myself together because, like, okay, I know that this is going to be hard for my parents. Mm-hmm. So they can't see me fucked up, right? Yeah. So I have to hold it together for them. And I kind of took on that role for like the whole first year, like through the funeral. You know what I'm saying? My whole thing is like, man, I gotta hold it together for everybody else. So the whole time people are telling me that, you know, hey man, like you're taking this really well. Like I can't believe you're dealing with this the way you're dealing with it. And so for one, I'm in shock. For two, I've told myself that like, okay, I have to carry everybody else. Yeah. But it ended up, man, in the long run, it ended up kind of like hurting me. Because I never really gave myself space to grieve. Mm-hmm. So it finally set in for real. So like a whole year goes by. And I mean, obviously I'm mourning my brother. I was never in denial or anything like that, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But this is a restaurant in Chicago called Chai Tung. They have a hibachi.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. And they also have like this Chinese buffet, and it's really cheap for what you get.
Yeah.
So it was one of my brother's like favorite restaurants. We used to go there like on like we were both off of work. I would just get like random calls from like, hey, what you doing? You want to go to Chateau? You know what I'm saying? So me and my family, man, we all went there, and I'll never forget this shit, man. I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, man, we're celebrating my brother's birthday.
This is 2 days later.
No, this is a year.
Oh, yeah, a year. Okay, all right.
Okay, so we're sitting there and we're celebrating my birthday. Excuse me, my brother's birthday, and I'm like, he's not here. And not only is he not here, he's never fucking coming.
Yeah.
Like this is how is it every year we celebrate his birthday is going to be without him. And it just when that shit set in for real, bro. Yeah, when you talk about depression, you know what I mean? And yeah, it was just I didn't know what to do, man. And honestly, I'm still figuring it out. I'm a lot better than I was, but it's just kind of like one of those things my mom used to always tell me, and I didn't understand it till then. When somebody that close to you dies, you never get over it. You just learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you talk about life being so fleeting, it was just like, dude, we were just joking, right?
Yeah. Like
2 days before.
Yeah.
Literally just joking.
On Facebook, right?
Right. 2 days before that, we had just talked because you can say his birthday was coming up. So we had just had this long conversation. The night before, he texted me, say he was going to meet me at happy hour on Friday. So I'm like, bet. So he asked me to post a picture on Facebook. He never lived to see it. It was just that. It was just like that, bro. You know what I'm saying?
That is wild, man. That is.
Yeah. So you just, so it really kind of like, in terms of like, man, you don't have as much time as you think you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was another reason and motivation. Like once I got the idea and I named it, it was like, okay, we gotta go. You know, I don't give a fuck if I don't know how to do all this shit. You know, I've never owned a camera before. I don't know about editing and all that other shit. I'm going to figure it out along the way. And it may not be that great at first, but I'm doing it. Yeah. And I tell my kid this all the time, like, no matter what you're doing, if you do it consistently, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah. It's all about consistency, man. It's like I was telling you last night with that guy, like don't look at the comments, don't look at the views, whatever. Just keep doing it that way that everybody knows, it's coming out Monday at 2 a.m., whatever and then you inevitably will get better as long as you are open-minded and you know how to learn from your mistakes or your failures, right? Some people say, oh, you never fail. You either learn or succeed. I'm like, that's bullshit. You do fail at things, but how you are as a person is probably, maybe your upbringing. But like, if you can look at your mistakes and say, all right, I did this. This was a little weird, right? I didn't like this. I'm going to change this next time. Or I'm going to, and it's like microscopic changes. But if you keep doing that same formula, it may take 50 or 100 fucking episodes, but like, I guarantee. All right. So you started in June, right? So like how many episodes are you going to have come out by your brother's birthday? So you'll be at 7 or 8.
I will be at 8. And I actually plan to, so every now and then I do like, I've planned surprise drops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just the episodes that I'm going to like put out kind of like without warning, they don't align with my regular release schedule.
Yeah.
So I did one so far. I did a Stranger Things review with my kid.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Which was awesome. So I guess technically if people see this beforehand, it won't be a surprise. But I definitely plan on doing something on September 14th for him.
Yeah.
I would have had 8 episodes by the time his birthday comes.
There you go. So by the time his birthday hits, you got 52 more weeks to drop. Next year on his birthday, you're at 60. That episode, 60th episode drop, that shit's going to be fucking fire. You know what I mean? And I already know it. Yeah. Like everybody might be watching this being like, oh, maybe they're judging, maybe they're casting, whatever the deal. I'm telling you right now, 60th episode next year on your brother's birthday, that shit is going to be fire. And I know you'll do it because I already just planted that seed in your brain. Boom, let's go. This shit's going to be off the hook. I mean, for real.
Yeah.
So that's just keep up with the consistency. But man, that story about your brother is That I couldn't even imagine, man. He was your older brother, right?
He was my older brother, yeah.
So I got how many years?
5 years. 5 years.
And me and my younger brother are 6 years, and we're close. We weren't growing up because, like, I was always into, by the time I was doing this, he was still young, and then he'd get to that, and I'm already past that in my life, right? Like going to the bars. He's like, let's go to the bars. Like I had like one of those in me, man. I'm like, dude, I'm past the bars. He's like, and he's fresh into them, and so, but now that we've all kind of gotten past that, we talk at least once, twice a week. And I'm always worried about him, and not that he's a fuck up. It's just that he's my younger brother, and my parents just moved to Florida. So it's just me and him still in Colorado. And like, inevitably I'm always worried about him. Like I'm worried about him making mistakes, but I know that he has to grow up and do his own thing. He's going to fall and he's going to fail, but it's weird when it's your child, you feel like you can kind of cultivate it a little bit more, maybe help them out. But like when it's your brother, you do have to realize, or a sibling, that they have their own lives and they're going to fuck up. They're going to fail and you can't control it. But I don't even know what I would do if I lost him or if he lost me, and we're not even as close, I don't think, as you and your brother, but we are building a really good working relationship. Like, I mean, we literally owned a company together, and we were around every day. We were around each other. And so I just couldn't imagine if I got that call. So I'm really, really sorry to hear about that, but it's true. Life is really, really short.
Yeah, man. So we were really, like I said, we were really tight. Like as kids, we're boys fight, right? You know what I'm saying? But he really, so, growing up in Colorado is very different from growing up in Chicago.
How so? How would you say that? You're on the South Side, right?
South Side Chicago.
There we go.
Notorious South Shot. I've never been shot.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, very good thing. But I've seen quite a bit growing up, man. So my brother, so it was like this weird thing, man. It's funny because you talk about like, like you were already past the bars and stuff, by the time your little brother. Well, I was a seasoned pro at drinking because of my brother by the time I got to college. Like, and so the thing was, like, I couldn't stay out late by myself, but if I was with my brother, so when I was 13, he was 18. So he's hanging out. And if I was with him, she was like, okay, well, you come home when he come home. So he started like, I was kind of like, just kind of like this little nerdy. I didn't really go outside much. And then like at first, so my mother kind of started making my brother take me outside. And then at first it was kind of rough, but then eventually got to the point where like, okay, like now I want to go outside, and now he wants me to come with him. So man, once we kind of made that transition, we were thick as thieves ever since, man. And my brother was a lot more social than I was at that time. And even to this day, man, my brother was like, he was just like this big, jolly, you know what I'm saying? Always had a joke. Super fun. I know you never met him, Aaron, but if you ever could have met him, he was fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, always, man. But he also, I was able to like navigate and learn how to navigate through like Southside shit, you know what I'm saying? Chicago, gang culture, all that shit. I was able to like navigate through that with him, with his guidance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if I would have been as successful at it if I hadn't even gone down a more of a dark path than I did. Yeah. Had it not been for him kind of like, hey, you don't necessarily have to do that,
Gotcha.
Like because he was way more outside than I was, So by the time I came around, it was more so like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, this my little brother, like, y'all don't fuck with him. My brother had a reputation. It was to the point where like I was going to go to the same high school that he was going to, but my mother was like, "Nah, fuck that. You got to go somewhere else."
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to do this shit again.
Yeah.
But I mean, and not to say like but I mean, regardless of other shit that we did, man, both of us grew up to be family men, good jobs, but I owe so much of my upbringing to him,
Yeah.
right? So he essentially raised me in a sense, not to say that my parents did it. I mean, obviously my parents are very involved in my life, still out to this day. But my brother, he raised me in a different way.
He was there during your formidable times, man. He was, he's there. He's there at that. Your parents can only do so much, right? So it's like, if you got that older friend, good or bad, hopefully good, like, or your older brother. I mean, clearly they're going to be able to show you things, like you said, out in the streets. And for you, literal, but I mean, like, out in the world, like he's there, right. He's already experienced. He's able to kind of guide you. Your parents aren't there with you 100% of the time. So he was that figure for you to help guide you into the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man, but like, it's just so crazy. Even now, man, like there's so much shit that I wish I could talk to him about, like conversations that I kind of just had to keep in. Thank God I got a therapist. You know what I'm saying? But it's still just not like, cause it's that level of trust, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That no matter what, like I know my brother is going to have my back.
Sure. Yeah.
Regardless of the situation, regardless if I'm wrong or not, my brother's going to have my back and he'll tell me how I fucked up later.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting and it's rough not having it, but it's also allowed me to kind of, energy never dies, right? Yep. I mean, that's scientifically,
sure.
Energy never dies. It just changes states. And I've had experiences through dreams and other things. It kind of lets me know that he's still around in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Not the way that I want him to be.
Sure.
But his energy is still here. And so you find some peace in that. And, but like I said, life goes on, bro.
Yeah.
I kind of had to just take that shit on the chin. I got a kid to raise, he has a daughter, his niece, I gotta be around for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So it's been a wild time, man. Like I say, going from that straight into the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was definitely when people talk about mental health, and then all that other just crazy shit started happening, dude. Like we had those fucking riots here.
How was that?
Which was,
I mean, we saw, we were still in Texas when the riots were really popping off, but
yeah.
I mean, how was that in Chicago, South Side? I mean, obviously, I can imagine it was every big city in the world, but I mean, what was that like being there? Because we were living in, in between Austin and San Antonio, right? In a very suburban setting. So like we were 50 miles
shit on fire there.
Yeah. No one was flipping over cars or anything. I mean, was it scary? I mean, you got a daughter, you got a young kid, you're living in that world, all that on top of you. Like, what did that feel like?
I'm trying to, so going back to that time, I don't think I was ever scared. I just remember the next day just feeling just so fucking disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
I understood, this people that use this quote a lot during that time from Martin Luther King. It said, riots is the language of the unheard.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like, man, we've done that so much.
Sure.
Fucking when Dr. King died, there were riots here and other places. And there are areas of Chicago that got burned down, like on the south and west side, that never fully made a recovery after that, even still to this day. Thankfully, we didn't get to that level of destruction. But, like Rodney King, what I'm saying? They fucking tore down Los Angeles, what I'm saying? All this other shit. But it's just like, I get it. And I understood the frustration because, I mean, fuck, man. Like, it's like, how many times are we going to be able to sit and watch somebody black be murdered, and they're playing the shit over and over and over again, dude? It's like, I don't, I didn't want to watch it, but it's like, it was hard to get away from it. Every time you go on your computer, every time you go on your phone, every time you turn the TV on, or you saw fucking George Floyd, dude, you could see the life leave his eyes, right? And there's no reason he wasn't doing it. He didn't have a weapon. There's no reason for you to have your knee on this man's neck for that long. There's no reason. There was no reason for it. But I understood the frustration. I just didn't think that was the way we needed to go. But what we ended up finding out was, like, you know, because there's this separation of wealth, and basically people that don't have shit saw opportunity to get shit, and they seized it. And so it wasn't just during that time. Like, that kind of happened for the rest of the year. Yeah. Like, people were going downtown, smashing and grabbing, you know what I'm saying, doing all types of stuff. And I just remember going out the next day and trying to, like, be a part of the effort to clean up. Because I would rather build than destroy. Yeah. But it was a really crazy time, man. And you just didn't know there was so much uncertainty because it was happening everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. And it was in every city, like every major city. I mean, there was riots, man. It was wild in Texas. Like, Colin thought I was talking to him when he was down a few weeks, and he kind of thought I was, you know, just talking shit or maybe telling a fish story. Right. But, it was crazy. Like, we were in Texas at the time, but our offices were kind of close to Corpus Christi, which is like 2.5, 3 hours from where we lived. And so we'd have to drive down there an hour and a half one way. And we were coming back. I was coming back on the main freeway. I forget which one it is, north and south, coming up from Corpus Christi to San Antonio. And dude, I shit you not, it was like semi-trailer after semi-trailer, like for at least a mile, full of like Humvees and like military type vehicles. And at that time Texas was quick to lock down, like real, like super, super quick. And we had to have, a slip in our window that was displayed, you know, we're essential personnel, because the governor was like, well, we can't not produce oil and gas. Right. And that's what I was doing down there, doing electrical work for that. Right. So coming back, I mean, seeing these, and it was real, like intimidating. Cause it was like, there was stages, like if you were following the riots, it was like they were here in this city. And then they, like, all of a sudden they had this like trickle effect, and it was like, it kind of dominoed throughout the whole country. And Texas was like getting ready for this, like whether they were going to do it, if they were worried about the borders or maybe like the coast, like in Corpus, where all the barges come in and deliver stuff, you know, it was just weird. And it really kind of made the hair on your neck sort of stand up. Like, what is going on, man? This is bigger than, you know, COVID and lockdown. We're already in all this stuff. And then like they're compounding this. So like you dip off on the back road, and you're going like puddle hopping between, you know, a town of 300 people to a town of 500, and then all of a sudden you get stopped, and it's full on military personnel with AKs being like, what are you out for? Sir, I'm essential personnel. I work for this company. You know, this is my route. I live at this. And they like check your ID. All right, you're good to go. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it was like, it felt like, you know, martial law type stuff was, I mean, it was real scary. And, you know, but I mean, that's also Texas. It's a little different, but I just can't, I've been trying to ask people that, like, that, you know, you were in the city, like, what was this like for you at that moment? And obviously being a black man yourself, it was like, this had to have a different impact on you than myself, you know, as far as like, how does that, you know? For sure, man. It was funny because like me and my girlfriend, we were at the couch. We were sitting on the couch, man. And once we got home, and we were just kind of like watching, like when the stuff first kicked off here. And so there was an area right by me where like people were just looting. They were just taking everything, and police were literally just standing by watching them, right? But then at the same time, they were showing news coverage of places up north and downtown where the police were just like forming lines and just like, no, y'all can't do this shit here. So it was just really interesting to see it in real time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we're going to let them tear this shit down over here. Yeah. But up here, like, no, we have to protect this. Sure. And really, so it just showed you like what they give a fuck about and what they don't. So that was kind of like my thing is just like, okay, yeah, I get we're angry, but why we always got to tear down our own shit?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I saw something. I mean, I'm sure it was out there, but like this one interview, they were talking to this lady, and I'm not sure exactly where she was at in the country, but you know, they asked her that question, you know, why are you burning these buildings? And she told the reporter, you know, we don't own these buildings. Like we're renting here. We own nothing, you know? And it just like, you know, I was trying to just think about that. Like, and there was so much content at that time. Like, dude, I swear to God, Netflix was sitting on 10 years of backlog. Like they were just waiting for that release. Like they did, like they dropped that one show, man, I forget exactly what it was, but either way, it was like Black Wall Street in, I think it was Oklahoma. I'm sorry. I'm botching it right now. And I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No. So it's funny that you mentioned that. So they talk about the Tulsa riot. So what they did call it Black Wall Street. It was Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yep.
And it's funny because a lot of people are just now getting in tune to that. So it's really, so it's funny, man, because we're really living in a time where people are denying truth.
Yeah.
Like people will try to act like shit isn't real, shit doesn't happen, or they're trying to make things that are not real.
Mm-hmm.
So that what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma has gotten a lot of coverage over the past few years. That was something I knew about. Like,
oh yeah, no, I knew about it, but it was funny that Netflix, I mean, that was like a serious production. It wasn't like a last minute. Like I think they had like filmed that and they were ready. And when the moment hit, man, it was like weeks after the riots, boom, new series. And it was like, and then it just, you know, goes up everywhere, which is good because that knowledge needs to be put out to the public because the vast majority of people didn't know about that. Right. Or they knew about it and they weren't talking about it enough. So I think it had a good impact.
So there are two ways you can look at it because a lot of, you know, there's this whole thing, I guess what they call like critical race theory,
mm-hmm.
which is really just teaching the real history of what the fuck happened here in this country. People will label things like that divisive.
Sure.
Right. Why do we need to talk about that now?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That happened, you know, it's only gonna, you know, and it's like, you know, like, well, I didn't do that, or I don't think my kids, or like, you know, they should feel guilty for what happened. And it's like, nobody's trying to make anybody feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just like, we need to know what happened.
Yep.
People need to understand that there were entire communities that were burned to the ground and people were killed just because they were Black and they were doing well.
Yep.
For no other reason. They would make up things. You know, because I'm pretty sure, I can't remember exactly how it started, but I'm pretty sure it had to do with something about somebody doing something to a white person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's just like with they're making a new Emmett Till movie, which I don't plan on seeing. But Emmett Till was killed because a white woman lied and said he whistled at her. Right? There are countless stories like this. And even still to this day, like, because I don't know if you ever heard of redlining. I know you working, you know, you're doing real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever, so redlining, the intentional locking out.
Sure. Redlining and steering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From accumulating property, which is the main way that people have been able to accumulate wealth. So then when you see kind of like how certain groups of people are farther behind, how Black people are farther behind in certain avenues, it was like, it's not because we just didn't want to, you know, or we just like, you know, we weren't given access. Mm-hmm. It was intentionally done. And it's like, how do we get past that? Like, how do you deal with the problem if you don't acknowledge that the problem is there in the first place? Because
mm-hmm.
I just read an article the other day, and this is something that's also common. This guy had his home appraised, and he did it as himself, but then he removed all anything that spoke to anything Black, like all his pictures, you know, all traces of Blackness were removed
mm-hmm.
from his house, right? And then he had his white colleague stand in as the owner. Got it reappraised, and they were appraised for $300,000 more. Right?
As a white-owned home?
Yeah. Yeah. And
that is some illegal shit on a federal level, dude. Whoever that appraiser was needs to get his ass fired.
But this is 2022 right now, right? And that's not to say, you know, like everything doesn't have to be about race, right?
Yeah.
But dude, it's a fucking problem.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
a fact.
And
It's a fact. Going back to the history,
yeah,
like we for everything, we have to teach our history. Like if you start to forget it or just make it commonplace to just look past it, you know, or have a blind eye to something, then inevitably 2 generations away, it will be forgotten. So it's like, if you forget that, then you're subject to making the same exact mistakes that you've already made. So why would you not? Like, going back to your comment, you know, I don't feel guilty. You know, I have by no means has any black man, black woman, you know, whatever, ever made me feel guilty about what happened to them. I had no control over what my ancestors did or maybe didn't do. But the reality of it is that it is the reality. Like, it happened in our country. It's happened in the world. It continues to happen. Like, there's places in this country, like, I mean, I was raised in Northeast Louisiana, right? And I've told this story to people. You know, I'm 37, was born in 85, right? My babysitter was a guy that worked for my dad. Like, he owned a mechanic shop. We were not affluent at all. You know, he had a
right,
mechanic shop and it was in Blacktown. And they were like, Black, like, almost like, you can't say that. And I'm like, no, I fucking can, because the reality of it is 98% of the demographic in there was black, and every business was owned by a black person. So why are we wrong to say black town? And unfortunately, like, some communities in Louisiana and some other like southern states, there's still, like, there's not true segregation. Like, there's no whites only, but
right,
it is known, like, okay, like, over on that side of town. But the reality of it is, like, you know, my dad owned the shop there. Every single one of his workers, he had like 12 people. They were all black, because no white guy wanted to go in there and work in that shop. But he couldn't afford to have a shop over on the white side of town, right? So it's like, it was just this weird deal. But the thing I was getting at is that my babysitter, his name was Bears, this huge dude. But anyways, like, him and his wife always babysat. If my parents wanted to go out, yeah, we got you. Like, they come over to our house or we go to theirs. And but people don't want to hear that kind of stuff because they're putting a blind eye on it. Like, you know, if it seems wrong, it probably is wrong. But I believe that you need to call a duck a duck. You know what I mean? A fucking spade is a spade. And I don't think that it's wrong in talking about it. It's like, you and I are sitting here talking, like, you've had a huge impact on me from the very first moment that I met you. Right. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was like, what's the first, like, notable moment? And it was hilarious because I think I hopped in your Buick that you had in Crass, and we get in, and I think you were listening to 07 or some band. I'm pretty sure it was 07. But I was
heavy in the 07 at the time.
I was like, he is not like any other black dude I ever met. He's jamming 07. But that's a stereotype. But the reality, I agree with you. I don't think that we need to look past. Do we need to make it, like, constantly prevalent to where this race feels this way or that? No, but the reality of it is, it's a problem. I mean, it is a problem. It has been a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem, especially if you just look the other way and say, you know, oh no, this didn't happen, or I didn't do that. Yeah, well, no shit, bitch. That's been 500 years ago. We know that you didn't haul people over in the 1800s. You know, like, we know that, like, that's definitive. You don't even know, you know, 2 generations of, you know, most people might not even know their great great grandfather. You know, so we know that you didn't do this, but you can't say that it didn't happen and it's not a problem. But I feel like the other side is, there's a lot of people, like, you saw it when you came out to visit, and we can get into this, but, like, you come to Southwest Colorado. I think I just ran a demographics report the other day because I'm doing some commercial work, and, like, it's less than 2% black. You know what I mean? That's like with our that's like saying we have like
I saw like 2 black people the whole time I was there.
Yeah, that's literally, like, the numbers, like, within our community, that's like 33 black people.
Right.
You know, so you have a huge chunk of society and geographical regions that do not get to experience life in an eclectic manner with different races, you know, and having to learn to live like that and becoming okay. So it's like, I feel that, you know, segregated or not, it's segregated, man. You know,
I mean, it's kind of one of those things, because, like, and even if you yourself or anybody in your family, I'm not talking about you specifically.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Even if you yourself or nobody in your family ever specifically did anything racist, were racist, you know, had any ties to any of that shit, you still benefit from institutional racism, right? I mean, it's just a fact of life, and like I said, and you don't have to condone it, but it's just kind of like by just the fact that you are a white male, you know, you will benefit from certain institutions that I will not benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
And is that your fault? No, you ain't do this shit. You know what I'm saying? I've known you, and I know that you're a good person. You're not somebody that I would ever think, right, anything about in that regard. But the facts are facts. So it's like we need to be able to talk about that. And people like us can only do so much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like from the outside, it takes people like you that are willing to acknowledge the fact that there is a fucking problem before it can really be able to be fixed or changed or anything like that. It's just because there is. We talk about those riots when we talk about George Floyd, dude. Like, do you know how many names, how many hashtags, how many people that you've just seen just killed on the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, and they'll show that shit over and over and over and over again. But I remember in January 6th, when that whole crazy shit happened at the Capitol,
Yeah.
There was one white woman that was killed trying to break into the Congress chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was caught on camera, but they never showed it. They would blur it out or they would cut it out before it happened.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so Black people can die on public view.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of like to be expected. You're going to show this, right? Over and over again. But you're not going to do that for anybody else. And it's just like, and that's why, like, it's crazy because I was talking about this in one of my last episodes. Some friends of mine who are therapists, and we were talking about just, advocating for therapy and things like that, and why it's important to have Black therapists,
Mm-hmm. because
there is an inherent trauma that is associated with that comes with being Black in America.
Sure.
That no matter how empathetic you may be, no matter how much you may want to understand, no matter how good of a person that you are, you won't understand. Like there was a conversation I had a long time ago. I'll never forget this. It's with a coworker. He's Korean, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Me and this guy, we were really cool. I love the shit out of this guy. But we were having this conversation one day, and he was telling me how, like, man, he always talks shit to police, and like he never really like gives them respect. And whenever they pull him over, he's always just like cursing them out. And just like, dude, if I lived my life that way, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I live in fear of police.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anytime I see a police behind me, I get fucking nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything wrong. Right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not out here, like, I'm not doing anything illegal. Like, all my tags and everything is up to date. You know what I'm saying? My license, my registration, everything. But I've had so many experiences in my life where I've been arrested, searched, just fucked with by the police, thrown in jail, spent nights in jail for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Right? And simply because of who I was and where I was, what neighborhood I'm in, what I look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, this is the common experience for somebody that's like, for a Black man that grew up on the South Side of Chicago. We all have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
We've all gone to jail, whether we were criminals or not. We've all gone to jail. We've all been arrested. We've all been at least harassed at some point by police.
Yeah.
So the relationship that we have with law enforcement is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Are you scared of police? Like, when you see police, do you get nervous?
No, but I don't have to, and that sounds fucking horrible, right, Jerayll? But like,
yeah.
You know me, but I'm getting ready to add to you, but I'm let you. So yeah, go.
No. I want you to finish your thought.
No, so I don't have to, but what I was going to do is expand on what you're saying is because I've had this conversation with other white people, and a kind of a common thread of the conversation usually goes, well, don't do bad shit and you won't get fucked with. And then it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, this is clearly happening, but again, looking at it the other way. But there was a series I just watched the other day about, the Baltimore Police Department. It's on HBO. I forget exactly what it's called, but anyways, it goes through that whole like period after like Freddie Gray and going through and showing like what those cops in I think it was called like the gun traffic control squad, but it goes through and it starts to really exemplify the scenario of why the Black community does not have trust in the police, or whatever branch of that division that, so it was actually really good. It kind of shed a lot of light on it, and it made it, I think it makes sense. So it's like, if you could have that conversation going, like, do you know all the injustices that have happened? And like, if you were put in that same scenario, would you trust a police officer,
And that is a common thing. And you hear that a lot, it's just like, just stop resisting,
Sure.
or just comply. It's just like, or it's like, or you'll see people going to jail and their only charge is resisting arrest.
Yeah.
It's just like, why the fuck are you like, so that you have no reason to arrest me. Normally something like resisting arrest should be in addition to another charge, because why the fuck were you trying to arrest me in the first place? Yeah.
Yep.
Right. It's like we just have to, dude, I'll tell you this one story. This was probably definitely one of the worst. So I dropped my kid off, so my kid's mom, she was in the suburbs, right? So I was dropping my kid's mom off. Excuse me. I was dropping my kid off to her mom. She had to have been maybe like 1 at the time. So dropped my kid off to her mom, and I'm heading back. I'm driving down the highway. So my one of my headlights went out a couple of days ago. Bullshitting on fixing it. So coincidentally, when I picked her up a couple of days ago, I had gotten a ticket. I got pulled over and I got a ticket. Right. So, when you get a ticket for a moving violation, a lot of times they take your license. So I didn't have my actual license. I had a ticket. So I'm on my way back home. I get pulled over. I'm like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming, for my headlight, right? So guy pulls me over, and something told me, I just had this feeling in my gut, like something ain't right, right? So guy walks up, and he asked me, like, do you know I pulled you over? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm assuming for my headlight. He was just like, yeah, that, and I can smell the weed coming off you. And I'm just like, do I just drop my kid off? You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally just like maybe like a block away. So, he asked me for my license. I tell him, well, I just got this ticket. So I don't have my license. I have the ticket, and I also have my state ID. So I give him my state ID. I give him my insurance. He goes back to the car, and as soon as that happens, I call my mom. I'm just like, hey, can you stay on the phone with me? Because I'm pretty sure this dude's going to try to take me to jail, and I just don't want anything else to happen. Right? So sure enough, he comes back, and he's just like, gun drawn, get the fuck out the car. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, whoa, okay. So like, I got my mom still on the phone so she can hear me. So my mom hears this. She calls my father. My father just so happened to be in the area, right? So this guy puts me in handcuffs, puts me in the back of the car. Now, I'm a big guy, right? Yeah. I have a wide back, but I'm also not very flexible in the shoulder area. So whenever I've been put in handcuffs, a lot of times they'll put 2 on me just because it's so I'm not in like just in excruciating pain. This guy puts me in 1 pair of handcuffs. I don't know if you've ever been in the back of a police car. It's not very comfortable.
What do you mean? It's all plastic. It's super comfy, right? It's cozy, especially when you're sitting on your fucking pinkies.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sitting in the back seat, man, and this dude is saying all types of wild shit to me. Like, so he searches my car, doesn't find anything, and he gets back in the car, man. Like, this dude tells me, like, I hope I find weed on you in lockup so I can put more charges on you. And I'm just like, holy fuck. So he's telling me, so the car is in my name, insurance is in my name. But so there was a typo, and I found this out. I had to get this fixed. So my driver's license has my middle initial, right? My state ID did not have my middle initial. So he's running my name, my state ID, nothing's coming up. So he's telling me that I've never had a driver's license. And I'm like, sir, I bought a vehicle and I have auto insurance. You can't do these things without a driver's license. And so so then my father comes, right? So my father comes, he sees me in the back seat, and my father's just like, hey, what's going on? He was just like, I was arresting your son. He was driving, he had weed in the car. And it was just, he was like, my father's like, well, did you find some? He was just like, no. And so my father's just like, well, he just dropped his daughter off. So I'm pretty sure he wasn't smoking weed with his daughter in the car. The cop tells my father, I don't think you know your son as well as you think you do. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
But the thing is, the way this dude was talking to me, I'm glad my father showed up, because I legit don't know what the fuck would have happened. Because he's telling me that he wants to be able to put charges on me.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so what ended up happening was he towed my car, and then he took me to jail. And ended up having to spend the night in jail. And it was like for nothing.
For nothing. What's the repercussion though? I mean, like, did you, like, what can you do?
Absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? I just had to sit there and take it. Lost the night of my life. You know what I'm saying? And this wasn't the only time shit like this is happening. But this was like the most blatant. Like, just basically, I did nothing. You know what I'm saying? Outside, okay, like my headlight was out. Mm-hmm. But I shouldn't have to go to jail for a night because my headlight is out.
Sure.
But this is like a common experience that people such as myself have with dealing with law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, it really is frustrating when people try to minimize and act like, we're just violent.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're doing things to cause this stuff. And I'm not saying that everybody that's ever, fallen victim, or anybody that's ever like found themselves in a situation didn't deserve it, because there's plenty of people out here that were doing shit that they had no business doing, but there is a difference in the way in this country that Black people are policed, and the data shows it. You know what I'm saying? It's not a myth. It's not something that we're making up. It's not something that we're looking for sympathy. It's a fucking fact. And it's really frustrating when people try to minimize it that way. Mm. So sorry, I kind of knew I went off on a little bit.
No, you didn't. I think it's super important to hear and talk about that stuff. I mean, I think, I read a lot about it, as much as I can, and try and follow, what's happening. But, a lot of things you see, like with the police department, reforms and things that are coming out, it's like, it's very depressing. And I know, Jerayll, that I don't personally experience it because I'm not a Black man. And I live in an area where there's very, very, we do have a lot of Native Americans here, but we obviously the demographics, we do not have very many Black people. But the thing of it is it does make you feel horrible when you see these things. You see good, honest people try and do things to correct a problem, or, get things going. And it's like either that reform is hit with such opposition, almost like a head wall, or it feels like a freaking drop in a bucket. You know what I mean? It's like, but the thing, and then to kind of offset that, you hear a lot of people say, oh, this reform is not going to do anything. Well, it's not going to do anything if you go into it with that mentality. Like this right. is a microcosm of a step to try and better our future. We're never going to go back in the past and change some shit. But if we don't do things to start to slowly, like you have to have police reform. I don't know if I disagree or believe with, defunding the police. I think that we need to overfund it and correct the right way to get the reforms done. That's going to take finances. That's going to take money. But it feels like very shameful that like one side of our country will want to do something to kind of hopefully offset and better it for the next 2 generations. Right. Because I do think that it's going to take 2 or 3 generations to fix, and that's unfortunate. But that's a real reality. It's so this hatred, this injustice, this racism across many different races in our country is so ingrained in our society that you're not going to fix it. It will never be fixed in our lifetimes. It will always exist. We will try. We can maybe see little glimpses, but as long as like this generation teaches that generation, and we start to build these reforms and changes, then there is maybe a slight light, at least at this moment in time, at the end of the tunnel of injustice. But it's going to take people making those tiny little steps. And we're such an instant gratification society anymore that like putting that drop in the bucket, good or, as long as if it's good, it's like there's not enough of a ripple to see the impact in the next week or 2 months. It's like nothing is done like that. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't have a season. It doesn't grow like a crop. You don't till this up and plant corn because last year you planted peas, right? We're trying to make it to where this ground can always plant corn without messing up the soil, and it's kind of a weird concept, but I don't like hearing that side of it when people are like, well, it's not going to have any impact. It will, but it's going to take continually doing the same things and then advancing on that, right? Like, and also getting the communities involved. That's I think that's a big deal,
I think people, so especially in 2020, man, we got a lot of like, we got a lot of, how should I put this? It's like we got shit like they took Aunt Jemima off of the pancake box.
Yeah, what the fuck does that do? What does that do? I mean, in all reality, man, like what does that do? I mean, I understand like maybe it's disrespectful. I can totally agree with that.
Yeah,
that is not going to stop police brutality.
It's not going to do any fucking thing.
Fucking Aunt Jemima.
And so it was a lot. It was a lot of shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk about like police reform, that stuff. So it's not so much about people want to talk about abolishing the police, defunding the police. I do feel like there's no reason why law enforcement, like local law enforcement, should have like tanks, and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So you can defund it. I mean, the police are necessary, but in terms of like how they're trained, you know what I'm saying? Like the people that are training them, like how they look at the people that they are supposed to be serving and protecting.
Sure.
A lot of this shit happens, man, because they're fucking scared.
That's what I was going to say. They are legitimately scared. And like, I can say that firsthand, like being a white, I mean, like we were coming to visit or trying to come and visit. It's been a decade ago now, right? My son's 10, but we had this like hippie van and we were loaded up and it was like, hey man, we're going to come out and stay with you. He was like, you could stay with me, man. But like, you can't park your car. Like shit's going to get jacked, And it will, I mean, we had like the Thule rack on the top with all of our shit, and it's like,
somebody was going to try to fuck with it. But the thing is, it's not like you could have came in my neighborhood and been completely fucking safe, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's this fear that people have. That's like, okay. Now remember when we were down there, and they used to have the WGN news. They would play the Channel 9 news, the Chicago news at night, right? And so you would see so the news is always going to report like how many people got shot, who got murdered today. You know what I'm saying? Somebody got stabbed on the train. And it's just like, if you just watch all of that stuff, you would think that as soon as you step foot on the south side of Chicago, you got to look around. Somebody's might be going to shoot you or some shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like that in real life.
Yeah.
But when you look at the people that police our communities, man, and leaving a lot of some people that grew up in our neighborhoods and like know the territory, they're fucking scared. They see a lot of shit. Being a policeman is a hard fucking job, right? And that's why I don't think anybody should be allowed to be a fucking policeman.
Not just anybody. They need yeah. You shouldn't just be like, what is a police academy? 6 months?
I don't even, honestly, bro, I don't even know it's that much here, especially now, because the funny thing is, since 2020, the Chicago police, I don't know about everywhere else, but Chicago police, man, they're having a hard time finding bodies.
Nobody wants to be a police officer, man. Like they probably get more daily interaction. Like you think about this, right? So I don't know what boot camp is, but let's say you go to boot camp for whatever. Like you don't stop training and just like, all right, here's a car. Go do what we told you to do. You continually keep training to kind of better yourself at that. But like, I feel like police officers aren't trained enough, anywhere near enough to be able to de-escalate a situation that can come up like that. Right. Like they're not special forces, but they have more interaction on a daily basis than I would say any other, and they're not military, but they definitely have more interaction on a daily basis than any person in the military. Like you got people that have gone in 20, 25 years in the military. They never saw a battle. They never had to pull out their gun. They never do anything. And probably the vast majority of police never have to pull out their gun, but they're constantly walking up to a door on a car, whether it was that person was pulled over wrongfully or not. You don't know what's going to happen. And so I feel like that is a Molotov cocktail ready to explode because they're not trained enough to realistically be doing that job adequately. And they're making moment decisions and a lot of times poorly. Not that's probably, I'm the weird thing too is that I'm not trying to downplay the amount of like public deaths that have happened by any means. But what I'm saying is that our media is very good at, right? Like exploding a small minutia of the terrible, right? It's bad. It's clickbaitable, right? They're not reporting real news anymore. It's like, here, this is clickbaitable. This is going to get us 1,000 views in a second. And so like the bad cops, like at least I should say, I would like to think that the cops that are truly doing things poorly and that are just labeled potentially as a bad cop are still the minority of all cops. I'm not saying that they're not practicing out of fear, because I do think that a lot of times they are, for sure. But that's that going back to, right, getting on, what is the train there? The L?
Yeah, we call it the L.
You know what I mean? Like, every time, like Arizona, WGN News, like somebody gets stabbed in the mouth today. And I'm like, I thought for sure in college, man, I'm like, Jerayll's going to die here in a couple of years for sure. Yeah. But like, but that's the thing is like, it's not that bad. Simone and I wrote it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's how people perceive. And if they truly believe that the news is reporting things that are newsworthy, it's like, we're just trying to put the most hot topic on here right now so that we can get you to click into it. We can advertise something because they're still getting paid from ads. And that's the thing is like, I wish that, I don't know. If
they say it bleeds, it leads, right? So I think it's an institutional thing, man.
Yeah.
And I really just feel like there's just a change in mind state, that needs to happen. And like you said, it's probably not going to happen in our lifetimes. But it just needs to be more so about, man, we just got to give a fuck about each other.
Exactly. You got to be you have to be a human being. And we kind of talked about this for a little bit last night, but like you and I, we're planting again, tiny baby seeds of trying to better a situation. However we can do that. If that's therapy for somebody to listen to this podcast, if they get a little sliver out of this and they want to do something better, we're trying to bring all the boats up, right? We're trying to rise the tide, lift everybody. And we are clearly from two different geographical, cultural, ethnic, we're from two different backgrounds, but that has never been an issue between you and I, or you and my wife, or you and my in-laws. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you have always stepped foot and it was like, this is who Kyle is. This is how it is. He's an honest person. I'm going to treat him for what it is. I'm not going to confuse the situation because he has never lived in my shoes. He's never been a black man on the south side of Chicago, but you've also never been in my shoes. And so, but we see the good in both. Right. And so I think that if at a minimum, if people can start to have a conversation, and maybe they don't have those opportunities, but I think if they can start to have a conversation to hear each other out, and not be like, I disagree with you and I want my point to be proven. It's like, no, shut the fuck up, listen, and then reply like in kind. And it doesn't have to be an argument. It's how do we become a society that can talk to each other without thinking that it has to be at the end of a bullet?
So it's not, because like people get caught up in being right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not about right or wrong. Sometimes shit is just different.
Yeah.
Sometimes we agree to disagree, right? So it's like, if we can, so like me and you, like, so we know each other for a long time. It's not like race and all this other shit has never really been like, we've never had to have these type of conversations with each other about like, you know, like our cultures and you respecting my culture and me respecting yours. We've never really had to jump through those hoops. We've always just been cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're two guys, you know what I'm saying? Similar interests. We were both there in audio school. We're both out here trying to make it, man, do something with our lives. And we could just build off of that, you know? So and just the fact that I was able to fucking call you up a couple of days and just like, you know what I'm saying, come to your fucking house when now you're in your house because you were moving. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I thought I was coming to your house.
Yeah, for sure.
That didn't happen.
Well, I mean, what do? You're like, I already bought the ticket. And I was like, all right, shit, fuck, come on out. Let's go.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Like, remember you always told me, man, I can come out there.
Yeah.
Like, here I am. I bought the fucking ticket.
Yeah, tickets were cheap. Pick me up at 11:30. Like, fuck.
Yeah, it was like, yeah. So, yeah, man. So it's like, for me to just be able to come out there and honestly, bro, like that first visit out there was life-changing. Yeah. Like, I tell people all the time, man, I tell people the story about that first night when we were at your father-in-law's house.
Oh yeah.
And you know, he's out there like in the mountains, like no paved roads. So I'm getting ready to go outside and you're like, you don't want to take a flashlight? Like, dude, I'm just going to the car. And I remember opening the door and sticking my hand out and I couldn't see my hand anymore. I'm like, let's take that flashlight.
Yeah. It's dark, man. Yeah, for sure.
Like so I go outside, but then I looked up and I'm just like, holy shit, I could see the Milky Way, right? We were talking about the wedding yesterday when I crashed your wife's sister's wedding.
Oh, dude, that was hilarious.
And then whose fucking house were we at?
So that was these people that we knew. He was a lawyer in town. His name is Marty Freeman. Good dude. Got me out of jail a couple times. So he was a good guy. But so they had that place, and that I think that's at the end of a big subdivision. But that place was like, you know, it was, I think it's Falls Creek is the name of the subdivision. Gorgeous. I mean, beautiful. You see the mountains, huge ponderosa trees, you know.
It was like his backyard was like this huge, like just plot of land. Yeah. Like nestled in the middle of a mountain range. And I just remember, so first off, I'm like, okay, it's like a fucking log cabin. I ain't know people actually lived in places like this. You know what I'm saying? So I go in there. And then I walk outside. I remember I walked outside by myself. And it was so fucking quiet. And when you're in a city, you're used to noise, like at all times. Like, you know, so even when you think it's quiet, it's really not. And I go outside, just like you legit hear nothing. Like, dude, I could hear like the wind coming down and then going through the grass and shit. Yeah. Right. And like it's blowing my fucking mind. And I'm just sitting here looking around, and it's so fucking beautiful. You know, I was completely mesmerized, man. And that just opened like my mind up. It's not like I'd never been out the city. Like I had been camping, you know. Sure. I mean, I went to school in Iowa, but I had never seen anything that fucking beautiful before. It's definitely different, man. I mean, it's weird when you're away from it for a while. Coming back to it, like being in Texas, we were in their hill country. It's like 300-foot elevation drops, right? It's nothing. It's like, this is a fucking literally a hill. And so coming back home, you see it, and it's a bit like otherworldly at times, man. It's kind of captivating. Doesn't feel real when you haven't seen it for a few years, you know. You're kind of looking at it, and it's just, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a trip, man. It's something is. Again, your comment earlier about energy, right? There's a certain, not to say that there's clearly energy in a city, right? It's constant motion, it's movement. Right. You know, nothing ever really sleeps, right? But like there is a weird energy about the mountains.
You know, and I can't speak
sure.
about a lot of other mountain communities. Like I've never lived in Utah. I've never lived in, you know, the Sierra Nevadas, like Lake Tahoe, California kind of thing. But at least here, there is a weird energy behind the mountain range. And you feel it when you've never seen it before and when you come back to it after a few years. So it's definitely an experience I think a lot of people should do. I'm not saying it's going to be a cheap vacation, but just to see, like, I wish like that was probably, so what was that, 2012? So iPhones were still shit.
Yeah.
You might have had it, but like I remember we went up to the top, like legit the top of the mountains where that lookout was, and you hiked up and like I took that photo of you. I think I still have maybe a copy, but like I wish
I still have it somewhere on my Facebook profile.
But I wish that we had like cameras now, you know, like iPhone 13 or whatever, like, you know, with like some ridiculous megapixel and for that picture, because it's really, that was a cool picture because it was like clouds. And I remember like you could see like 3 or 4 or 5 different 14,000 foot peaks and you're just standing on this rock, like, you know, and it's pretty crazy.
I had never seen anything like that in person.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like opened me up and exposed me to something different. I've come back to visit you since then.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Colorado several times. Since I had a friend of mine that she was from Breckenridge.
Oh, okay.
I went up to Breck. My first time ever getting altitude sickness actually
was in Breck.
Yeah, man, because I didn't realize how much higher Breck is.
Dude, you can legit get sick from altitude sickness. Like it's bad. Like did you have a bad of it, or was it?
So we first got there, and I was cool. And then we went we were in this restaurant. We were just sitting there chilling. And I was just like, I feel a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like my head, I feel like a little dizzy or something. So I remember we went to her. We ended up going to a family house, and I was like, dude, I gotta crash. I just gotta go to sleep. And when I woke up the next day, I was fine. But that first night, it was just like, bro, I feel horrible.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people, like a lot of backpackers that come up, even if they've trained at altitude, you know, they'll get up at 10,000, 11,000 feet and like just have to take a nap. Like, it's just like, this is whooping my ass. You know, it's a real deal.
Yeah.
They got oxygen bars like throughout town, and then up at the mountain, like the ski area, they've got like 3 or 4 different oxygen bars, and people just go in there and get a little hit.
Durango was like 6,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 65, 68.
So, and I think Breck is like 10,000 above.
I don't think it's a 10,000. It's probably the same elevation. It's about 7,000. I think it's a little bit higher because it's actually at the Breck is like around the resort. It's like built around the resort, right? So so it's probably a little higher. Maybe 7,000, maybe 8,500.
Oh no, whatever the fuck it was. Like when I came to Durango, I never had it because I remember you were telling me like you might have some problems. When I came out there, I was fine. I never had any issues. But when I went to Breck, definitely.
Sure. Hey, when we were driving out to my in-laws, right? So just to kind of put it, you know, so like where my wife and I, when you came to visit, like you took a nap right off the plane, boom, and like I think my son's bed was still left there, and you were like, yeah, this will work. I'm just gonna hit this for like 30 minutes, like so we did that, and then we're like, hey, we got to get out of the house. Like this is the last. So from where Jerayll took this nap, my parents, my in-laws are probably 50 minutes south of there, right? So it's like a good hour outside of the town. And so when we're driving out there, you get past, I don't know if you remember that little bitty town, Ignacio, but we get past that and then there's nothing. It's like, and then you're kind of driving in a valley and you can see the mountains on the end. Did you think I was taking you somewhere to murder your ass?
No, man. I honestly, bro, I never had any of those thoughts. I always felt at peace.
Yeah.
Like I never had any thoughts. I never thought that you were going to murder me.
Well, good.
I'm glad that you didn't actually murder me.
Yeah.
No, man, I was just, only thing I ever thought about is just like, man, are there any like fucking like cougars out here or some shit?
Oh yeah.
Or like some, you know what I'm saying? So like just avoiding stuff like that. But I mean, I didn't plan on going walking by myself through the mountains or anything, you know, but it was even cool. Just like that stretch of land that he had that you can just kind of like, he had like that nice little lookout point,
mm-hmm.
You know, and then it was definitely the experience. And it was just kind of like, you know, never you guys, but it's just like who the fuck else is out here though?
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, you got to
But
worry.
I
I mean,
mean,
that second time you came up, you guys had that. You took my car, and I think you guys went to the movies, and somebody fucked with you guys at the movie theater.
yeah, it
Remember
was it wasn't necessarily somebody fuck with this. People were just saying stupid ass shit. I really don't even remember exactly what. I remember a little bit about that, but it was such a small, insignificant part of that visit that it's not. That's definitely not something. Honestly, I had never thought about that shit again until you just said it.
Yeah. I just
it
remember
was-
because it pissed me off. It was like, yo, I got a really good friend of mine up here visiting. Like, you guys go out on a date, take our car, go do your thing, and then some ignorant asshole is fucking with you for probably some ignorant ass reason that he really, maybe showing off for a friend. I'm gonna do some stupid shit. Watch this, guys. It just made me mad. It kind of stuck in my head. Like, man, I'm, fucking stupid people.
but I mean, you're gonna have assholes everywhere.
Yeah.
And also, I'm very, very capable of handling myself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I just felt like, man, hey, man, if you want to start some shit with me, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If it's just like like man to man, I don't fear any fucking body.
Yeah.
So I mean, so like people were going to say shit, then like it wasn't. I remember it wasn't anything to the point where I feel like I had to put my hands on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I can't even remember exactly where it was. I just remember it was just like, hey, this dude's a dick.
Yeah.
But that was just like this very singular experience that happened. The rest of the time I was there, man, it was nothing but like fucking beauty. The food was fucking good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like the air was crisp.
That honey.
It's not that same. the fucking honey, man. The honey, I couldn't. I was literally like just making pieces of toast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? just to have the fucking honey, man. It's like and I'm telling you, it's an experience that I've always talked about, like to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I've told my kid about it, man. I got pictures, like I've shown people. It's just like it was definitely like a life-changing thing to just let you know, like, you grow up in the city, in the urban area your whole life. And Chicago is a beautiful city.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been blessed enough to travel a lot, especially with my job. So I've seen a lot of cities, architecturally, Chicago is probably the most beautiful city in the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Super gorgeous.
I mean, it is fucking amazing, especially in the summertime, man, the lakefront. It's a great, great, great place to be. But it's just something different. Like you say, it's some energy, it's something out there. It's just like I miss it. Right? Like I haven't gone. Like that trip to Breck was in 2018. Right? So I've been kind of like fiending to get back out.
Yeah.
To like, you know what I'm saying? Because not even if it's not even Colorado, man, like going to different places, like, I'm trying to go like Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Maybe going like Wyoming, hitting up Jackson, Montana, shit like that, like kind of like that whole Idaho, Pacific Northwest area. It's just kind of, and I'm not sure that I would have that type of desire had it not been for me coming to visit you that first time.
Yeah.
So it's even like, and it just coming back to our time at Crash, it's like, even though what we specifically went out there for probably didn't work out,
mm-hmm.
like it still was an experience that enriched my life in ways that I'm still really thankful for to this day. And things it's still happening. Right?
Oh yeah.
Us even doing this right now is a direct result of that. Like we never would have fucking met had it not been for that.
Sure. No, not in a million years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, two people, two different parts of the country, two very different walks of life. Had we not been in that place, on a singular mission, like, I mean, who knows? So, and like, who knows if I had ever like had those types of experiences, man, seeing that different part of life, just seeing, man, just some of the natural beauty that this world has to offer. you know, man. So it's just, I'm just thankful for those experiences, man, and thankful for that you allowed me to come crash your wife's sister's wedding.
That shit was so funny. I'm pretty sure there's a picture with you holding my like infant nephew, and like he had some. I think he was wearing like a bright red shirt. I gotta look it up, but it was hilarious. And like we didn't tell anybody like at all. I mean, my in-laws knew because like, and that was the other thing is like, hey, come visit you, and then all of a sudden I take you 40 miles south and we go stay with my in-laws because we were trying to build a house, and so we stayed with them for a little bit. And
I remember.
Oh, dude, it was a trip. But I was gonna say something, and like it was weird that. So my father-in-law brought this up after the fact, like after you left, and it was. I now I think about it every time I'm introducing a person or a friend of mine of another race. I purposely don't say their race, but I never did before. And it was so weird. And my father-in-law was like, you know, when you left, he's like, yeah, you never told us that Jerayll was black. We were like, yeah, we got our friend Jerayll's coming in from Chicago. And they're like, all right, cool, whatever. And there was no issue. Like, you know, they had no qualms with it by any means, but it was something like he brought that up. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, I never introduced anybody like that. It was always like, hey, my friend's coming out. But now that he said that, is kind of going back to our comment a minute ago, right? I won't get it back on the race deal, but it was like, he's not racist, but when he meant that, he like planted that seed. And now every single time I introduce anybody of a different race than me, I always think about making sure that I don't say what their race is. And I hate that because it was inherent in the way that I was brought up. And I just, right. I never introduced people. And now that he said that one thing, I think about it every fucking time. And it's like, man, this is so, but it goes back to how microscopic your impacts can have on other people. I think for, you know, but either way, just a tangent. But hey, so before we get off here, I do want to talk about it. So I purposely did not watch it, and I will go watch the episode, but you did a solo cast the other day, and it was titled, two things. I purposely have not watched two of your episodes. I promise you I will after this is recorded, but I didn't want to tarnish anything and make it feel like it was fake news on this podcast. So you had one that was titled Jiu-Jitsu Saved My Life.
Yep.
And I want to talk to you about that because like, we mentioned this last night. It's so weird. Like we know each other in our own right. Like we know what our friendship is. We have that relationship, but like in the holistic view of someone's life, you know, such a small little tiny avenue. And so when I saw you first started going, like probably a few years ago now, like to jiu-jitsu class, and you were putting some stuff up on social media, I was like, what the fuck? Like, was he? He's like rolling. Like, I mean, you're not a small dude. What are you? 6'2", 6'3"?
6'2".
6'2". I mean, like, you are not a small man. And I'm like, dude, he's going to be heavyweight for sure, or whatever the weight class is. And he's gonna be rolling with some big dudes. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's crazy. So, what led you to just out of nowhere decide to start this adventure with jiu-jitsu? Because you've kept it up for a few years. And it sounds like it. Yeah. I mean, with a title like Jiu-Jitsu Saved My Life. So how the fuck did you get into jiu-jitsu, man?
So it's actually a funny story. So I tell this story on that episode. So I actually started a while ago, man. So I kind of like started. I don't know if I ever told you I herniated a disc in my back.
No.
Yeah. So it's so fucking painful. So okay, my first jiu-jitsu lesson was in 2013, right? This guy, I was working out with him. He was a personal trainer. This guy named Unique. It's his real name. People always ask for that. but so Unique Gay Things. I was working out with him. So a friend of mine was going to him, and she was like, "Hey, you should come check this guy out. I think he's really cool. You know what I'm saying? You could probably, and I've been there, you've always known me. I've always kind of like tried to keep myself in good shape, work out. So I'm like, I don't need no fucking personal trainer. You know what I'm saying? I know how to work out myself. But she kept like bugging me. So I was like, you know what? I would just go one time so I could shut her up. I could tell her, I've done it. I didn't like it. Leave me the fuck alone. Yeah. So I ended up going, and the workouts are actually pretty challenging. So I was like, okay. So I start working out with the guy. And then he starts talking about, because he teaches jujitsu. He's just like, man, I teach jujitsu, and I think you'd be good for it. And this time, I am 31 years old. And I'm like, dude, I am not about to start a fucking martial art in my 30s. Yeah. Right? It's not going to fucking happen. So he keeps staying on me about it. So, all right, one day, I used to work out with him in the morning. So one day in the morning, he tells me, hey, I'm going to have jiu-jitsu class around such and such time. So I'm like, okay, I'll stop by and just check it out. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to fucking stop by. But it just so happened that later on, I went running on the lakefront, and on my drive home, I had to drive right past his gym. When I was driving past, I noticed it's like right around the time he said he was going to have class. So I'm like, man, you know what? Fuck it. Let me stop here and I'll just watch. And that way I can say, I looked at it. It's not for me. And then he can leave me alone. So I go in there and he's training a few women, right? And not jiu-jitsu, just on the personal training side, exercise. So I go in there like, hey, man, when's class going to start? He was like, oh, yeah, class is about to start. So I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Like, are the women going to be doing jiu-jitsu? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then the women leave, and it's just me and him there. So I'm like, okay, are there other people coming? Like, where the fuck are the students? So he goes into the back, and he comes out, and he has this gi on, right? And he then throws me a gi. So I'm like, this fucking dude is challenging me. You know what I'm saying? So Unique is probably like 20 years older than me. I had to outweigh him by at least 60 pounds. I'm in good shape. So I'm thinking, hey, man, worst case scenario, I can just muscle this guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't have the technique, but I should be able to hold my own, right? So put the gi on. We immediately go into sparring, and this dude whoops my ass, bro.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just throwing me all over the fucking place. You know what I'm saying? Like putting me in all types of crazy, like arm locks, shoulder locks, choke holds. And the whole time I'm thinking like, man, how the fuck is this dude so strong? You know what I'm saying? It's like, because I legit can't do anything with him. I can't move him. I can't get his hands off of me, nothing. So after about an hour of me getting my ass whooped, I'm like, I need to try this shit. You know what I'm saying? So I started going to class. I did my first tournament after working with him for a few months. But then the guy ended up losing his gym. So after a couple of years, we didn't have a consistent place to train. So he finally gets another gym. So I start training him again, and then I hurt my back. So now I'm out for like a couple of years, man. And herniated disc, man, it's just not. I wouldn't wish that shit on my worst enemy. It was horrible. So after physical therapy, a couple of years, I started feeling it again. And I go back to him, but this time I'm in a different place in life, right? I got a different job a little more demanding. And then, his classes are starting later and they don't always start on time. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, man, I don't really have the patience for this right now. So I'm just like, you know what, man, maybe jiu-jitsu is just not for me. And it's also, so this is in 2013. So now we're getting into like 2017, 2018, right? So I'm pretty much giving up on jiu-jitsu at this point, right? But there's another guy that I met through his gym, this guy named Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy is the guy who I train with now. Jimmy started hitting me up on social media, asking me to come train. He had just opened up a gym. It's like, man, come check me out. And I'm just like, man, you know what? I'm straight. I'm not really thinking about it. But he kept hitting me up. He stayed on me. Like I said, there's a theme here. So he stayed on me, and I eventually came to check it out. And his class was just different. Like the way he taught, the structure, it worked with my schedule. So I started taking it a little more seriously at that point. Plus, he was more challenging me from the standpoint of, man, you've been a white belt for a while. If you want to advance in this art, you have to be consistent. You have to come. So, because at first I was just kind of like dropping into class like once a week here or there. But then like once he kind of said that to me, it was a challenge. So I'm like, okay. So I started coming consistently. But the reason why I say jiu-jitsu saved my life was because when we were talking about when it really first set in, a year after my brother died, we kind of went into another lockdown where we couldn't exercise, like the gyms closed. And during that point in time, that depression was so heavy on me that like there were days where I really like, I'm working from home. I just got my laptop like in the bed with me, and I'm just not getting out of bed. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, want anything to do with anything, man. Just like I'm doing just enough to get by. You know what I'm saying? But jujitsu gave me something to focus on. So what ended up happening was Jimmy was kind of training by himself. So I ended up just starting to pop in on him. So he started to just train me, you know, and we have these like jujitsu dummies where it's like we can practice different holds and locks and things on. And man, he would just have me working with the dummy, like doing 200 Kimuras, 100 on each side. You know what I'm saying? Like doing all these fucking all these different types of techniques. And then me and him would spar, and that really kind of like elevated my game because he was able, because like, when you're doing the group class, he's just teaching for the group.
Sure.
But since it was just me, he was able to tailor things specifically for my skill set. You know what I'm saying? Like things where I'm deficient, we're able to work on, and places where I'm strong, we're able to add to. And to be able to like to have that progress and to see that or to have something to focus on during that time, I don't know what I would have done without it. Sure. Like, I don't know, like mentally, like, because there was legit, like, I was struggling for my sanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, no bullshit. Like every day, like, I understand how people lose their shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. It was just like, I was legit having that fight in my mind. Like, no, bro. You know what I'm saying? You gotta stay here. You gotta keep it here. But jiu-jitsu gave me somewhere where I could go and like just kind of like let that aggression, let it out, and just not really think about all that other shit for a couple of hours. Yeah. I'm just focusing on the task at hand, and it allowed me a release, you know. And had I not had that outlet, man, I'm just not sure what I would have done. Yeah. So that's when I say jiu-jitsu saved my life. That's what I mean. Yeah, it was your therapy. That's awesome, man. Like, it's good. Yeah. I was glad to see, because it did seem like you did stop for a while, but obviously we don't talk. We've texted from time to time, but I don't think we had a real conversation for 6 years, 7 years, something like that. But it might have been that long, bro. Yeah. I mean, but it was weird kind of, when you first got into it, like I know you did some tournaments, won some things, and then it was like, it just went quiet. And I was like, and then to see you come back into it, start a couple posts here and there, and then see that episode name. I was like, man, I gotta, what's going on with this? Cause every time we've talked, we've never talked about you doing jujitsu. And so it's really good. But I think that more people sometimes need things like that, cause I mean, I had never, like, I remember, I don't know if you felt the same way, but like when I got like a real first bat of depression, like I was reeling from a lot of things back home, having to shut down my company, claiming bankruptcy, feeling like a miserable fucking loser. And then I just had to go to Texas to get away. I had to escape, where I was. But then when that depression, cause you got to go there to come back here. Like, but when it really sets in, it was scary for me to admit to myself at that moment that I was losing my shit. I was like, you are not here. You're not present in your marriage. You're not present for your children. You're working 16, 18 hours a day. You don't have to, but you are. They will let you, and you make mad money. But that money in the bank account I was losing years with my family. And it was all because of depression. And then when I first started to tell myself in my head, I would never say it out loud, right? But I was like, dude, you are seriously depressed right now. Like you are, and I just started picking up probably the worst kind of music ever, but I was picking up playing guitar, doing like country music, and it was sad, but like I'll never forget this, man. And I felt emotionally, just so wrecked. And I was driving, and it was raining in Texas, and I was going to some bullshit well pad site. And Ashley McBride is a country artist, and she's awesome. If you haven't checked her out, man, she's great. Like, she's a beautiful singer, beautiful soul, good person. And one of her songs came on. I forget exactly which one it was, but either way, like I stopped the truck like on a backwoods dirt road, and like it made me start crying. And it's something about that song hit me at that moment. And it was like, it's okay. Like it's all right. You're good, man. Like at this moment, there's no fear. It's you in this truck. This song has hit you emotionally. And dude, I legit cried for probably
like 10 minutes, man. Just like after the song was done, you know, and then I just, and then moved on. But then the rest of that day, I was just thinking like, where did that come from, dude? Like, I'm not a very emotional guy. I can talk about emotions, but you know, Simone,
Right.
my wife, she's the first one to be like, man, you never cry in movies. You do, you know, I'm always tearing up and you know, but since that moment, dude, it's like you kind of start to inwardly look at yourself again about where you want to be, what you're doing in life, how you want to be remembered if you die tomorrow. And like, it took me a second to mentally be okay with crying and being like, I'm good with the person I am. You've made mistakes, you failed, you can bounce back from it, you know, but it was like that weird little moment made me just be okay. And so now if I see something emotional, like I realize like I'm still maybe not an emotional guy as much as some, but if it hits me, if it strikes a chord, like I'm good with it. I'm not going to run from it anymore. Cause I think I personally bottled up so much. And again, like you having to be the, you know, the strong figure, you know, for your parents, for your brother's loss, like you're bottling up all that stuff. And that inevitably at some point, like we are just human beings walking around and that shit's going to burst, you know, and if you don't do something. So I'm really happy to hear that something like jujitsu helped you get through a time that maybe you couldn't have by yourself, you know? And I think that a lot of people need to start to admit that to themselves. Like depression is not A, you don't have to fight it alone. And B, if it's not the end of the world, like it doesn't have to define you. Right. And it's like, that's how I
No.
started feeling. I felt like it was defining me. Like you're just depressed, man. You're never going to recover. And then like that moment of like that over emotional, like just tear jerking, like, oh my God, this is a fucking country song I'm crying to. What the fuck's happening? So,
Yeah,
but
but
it just struck a chord, man. But it made me realize it's all right. Like it's okay.
yeah, emotions are to be experienced, right? They're not here to stay with us forever. You know, that was one of the biggest things that I had to work through in my life, even before that, was not reacting and not doing things off emotion, but also not being afraid to experience that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the thing is, it's just like that's not always how we're going to be. You know, I mean, like I say, emotions are going to be experienced. You're going to be happy. You're going to be sad. You're going to be angry. You know, you're going to be jealous. You're going to be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's important to recognize that in those moments where you may not feel your best, that it's not going to be forever. You know, you've experienced this before. You might experience it again. You know, but it's going to get through it. And even when things are just seems like, man, there's no coming out of this, man. You go to those super dark places. Um, it is important to have things to help you pull yourself out.
Yeah.
But you got to want to do it for yourself. You know, you can't have it where nobody else can pull you. You know, like you have to want it for yourself, and you have to have the discipline to do it for yourself. Because like, I mean, going for the jiu-jitsu class, man, it takes, I had to go there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he wasn't coming to pick me up. He wasn't calling me saying, hey man, you know, you got to come to class.
Yeah.
Right. Like, no, I drove myself there. And like, if I wasn't doing shit else, it was jiu-jitsu classes Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. If I wasn't doing shit else, those days I was going to fucking class.
Mm-hmm.
And that discipline, regardless of the days where I didn't want to do it, that discipline is really what got me through.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you have to have that. It's so important. It's so vital.
Sure. And there's people always out there that will help you. You know, if anybody is listening to this or does that might be suffering, like, I mean, I'm not a big, you know, I think we have a mental health issue in our country drastically, but you know, I think a lot of people are afraid to reach out for help because they don't want to admit failure. Right. And I did say earlier in this podcast that we do fail. Like, and I believe that. I don't think that we always learn from our mistakes. I don't think that we're always given the opportunity to learn from our mistakes. You do fail, but that failure does not have to define you. And you can reach out, you know, you can reach out for help to talk to somebody. You know, there's people out there, but going back to your discipline comment, no one's coming to look for you if you're going to sit on the sidelines depressed. So you have to pick up a phone. You have to go to jiu-jitsu class. You have to pick up a guitar. You got to pick up a notebook. You got to go on a fucking walk, a jog, a run, a swim, whatever. But you have to make that first leap. because even your closest family members, they may just be labeling you as, oh, she's just depressed or he's just depressed. He'll get over it. That shit can go on for years and years and years and years. And all of a sudden that depression has now defined you, right? You've built a lifetime of emotions, memories, in depression. And so it's like, you got to make that first step to better yourself. Even if you're afraid to admit that you have depression, if you just need to talk to somebody, find that person, whatever that is, and go do that. But you got to make that leap. You're exactly correct. And you have to be disciplined enough to continue to make that leap.
Yeah.
Cause it's not going to get better just on one deal.
Nah. You can't wish it, you can't pray it. You gotta, like they say, faith without works is dead, man. Like you say, you gotta do the work. There's no way around it. You gotta do the work, man. And that's for anything. Oh
yeah, absolutely. What's your thoughts on where your podcast is going to go from here? Like, you got any? I mean, I saw you hit your first milestone, 100 subscribers. I thought that was, for lack of better terms, awesome. I don't know what else to say, but it's like, I thought that was real cool. And it was funny. I've been watching all the episodes, and then I looked at the YouTube page again, and like, I hadn't subscribed, and I'm like, I am horrible. As much as I want people to like and subscribe, I am the worst. Cause if I want to find it, I'll go look for it. And I'm always, but I am the worst at subscribing to people's pages. And I was like, all right, click subscribe. But
so I was too. But now understanding the metrics. So now, like, anybody I know that has a YouTube page, like, you pull up a YouTube page, I'm subscribing to your shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to cause like those metrics, those things matter.
Sure.
Ultimately what we want to do. But in terms of like next steps, I'm really just trying to, cause right now it's not like I'm getting a shit ton of views. Just like I said, I just passed, I was at 98 subscribers last week, and now I'm at 112, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's a good start, but like, I'm not so much, the numbers are there. The numbers are what they are, but I'm not solely focused on the numbers right now. Right now, I'm just focused on like improving my content.
Sure.
And, and just consistently putting out content. But ultimately, man, I want to be able to have multiple platforms under my umbrella.
Yeah.
I want to be able to produce quality content, and not just for myself. Like I said, for right now, I'm still doing the Easily Offended podcast. So there's 4 of us on there. I got my own. And I have a couple of other ideas for shows that I'm going to be putting out in the next couple of months, probably later this quarter or early first quarter of next year of 2023. And I really just want to be able to add positivity to the ecosystem, man. There's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of, just for lack of a better term, bullshit. And there's so much more to life than what we're projecting on the internet right now.
Sure.
Yeah. There is, it's not all about like, everybody's either doing like fucking relationships or something about financial literacy, like stocks or real estate. And, and all that stuff is cool. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for it. But it's like, a lot of it is like, we're going to do this. It's going to be extreme, on one end. And a lot of times people are doing shit for clicks and views. And I just kind of want to be a part of bringing back a sense of normalcy, just kind of level headed. Hey man, let's just talk. Yep. Let's just talk about kind of like quote unquote normal shit. And I'm not pigeonholing myself. I'm really just trying to be what I need to be when I need to be it. It's kind of like, when people ask me like what my podcast is about or describe it, I used a quote from Bruce Lee where it says it'd be like water.
Yeah.
When you pour water in a cup, it becomes a cup. You pour water in a bowl, it becomes a bowl.
Yeah.
So if you notice, like, man, like I only have 6 episodes up, but every episode has been completely different.
Sure. Yeah.
My first episode was about fatherhood. My second episode was about fucking male pattern baldness and man weaves. You know what I'm saying? My third episode, I interviewed some good friends of mine that are like reality TV stars, and they're also like fucking real estate moguls.
Yeah.
Then I did an episode about jujitsu. I've done it. I got an episode coming out we just talked about earlier. I interviewed some good friends of mine that are therapists that have their own practice, and we had a conversation around mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I started my premise off like, let's just say I want to just do a jujitsu podcast, then it wouldn't give me the ability to talk to these different people.
Yeah.
And or it would also limit my audience.
Sure.
Where I can reach people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And I really just kind of want to be able to have conversations and expose people to things that they may not necessarily have been aware of, and just kind of like bridge the gap, and more so do something that's gonna bring people together rather than tear them apart. I'm not gonna act like I know everything. I don't have all my life together. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how to go make $1 million in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how to go make $1 million selling stocks or about crypto or anything like that. But
you can be a voice.
I can be, I can be a voice.
That's huge. I think we talked about it in the very beginning of the pod, but I mean, it's such a powerful tool to have a podcast. I don't know how prevalent podcasting is in the Black community, but if it isn't, any of your listeners, any of my listeners, like, this is such a powerful tool, because somebody can listen to you in long form and really start to understand and learn who you are as a person. Right. And
Absolutely.
so like, there's no reason really why I had you on. I think that your story's interesting, and selfishly, I wanted to talk to you because I hadn't talked to you in like a decade. But I mean, the reality of it is like what we're doing here, I think can be for the betterment, right? We are cross-pollinating each other's platforms. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, two different people, two different worlds, raised everything. But like, look at the voice, and it maybe 2 or 3 people hear this and they start a podcast, or they reach out to you. Hey, Jerayll, how would I do this? Like, all right, here's the laundry list. This is the equipment that I've just bought. If you want to do what I'm doing, not saying you have to, go buy this shit and just start, And so it's such a powerful voice for the good. As long as you use it for good, I think it's huge, man. I think eventually keep the same consistency. And I would not be 100% surprised this time next year to see your podcast blowing up.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
I know you don't care about that, but I know the impact you've had on me. Yeah, I mean, I know you care. Yeah, we all want that, right? But like, inevitably, if it didn't just like have this, I'm making $1 million a month. Like, I don't think you would care. But I just know the impact you've had on me from a personal friend level. Like, anytime we've talked about some shit or discussed something, it's very impactful, and I've left that conversation, I think, in a better state of mind. Again, we talked about never about race, never about religion or something, but like when we're just talking about things, it's like, I know that I could come to you with a conversation, say, like, bounce an idea off you, and you would be honest enough with me to be like, this is stupid, or yeah, this, there's some validity to this, like this, so I do feel like both Simone and I personally have talked about it. Like, you had an impact on our lives. When we met in Arizona, like he have always stayed with me. And so I think that the voice that you're creating by using your podcast could be huge, not only for yourself, but also for your community. And I really believe that.
And, I mean, and Black people do love podcasts.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying I don't have a whole lot of, like, there's not a whole lot of hosts that I listen to.
Yeah, you don't have a.
I'm not saying you can't. You guys are more than welcome to do all the podcasts you want. Like, this is not what this show's about.
So. I mean, and the thing about it, the funny thing about that is Black people are kind of like always on the forefront when it comes to things that are creative.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm saying. What I was trying to get at is, if you don't have a big presence, I want to just tell the world, let the Black communities get a hold, and you see what will happen to podcasts that they have done with fashion, with music, with business. If you guys, if you don't already have your hands on it, yeah, you watch it here on this little bullshit podcast episode we're doing, right? If you guys get your hands on this and make it your own, it will not look the same in the next 10 years. And I mean that because that is, you guys, literally, the Black culture is on the forefront of the fashion industry, the music industry, and now what is seemingly becoming the business industry, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of on the back of some of these major moguls, you know.
So, but what it can also do is, I know you mentioned something earlier, right? First time you got in my car and you thought I was going to probably listen to some, like, you know what I'm saying, some hip hop or some shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Which I obviously do listen to a lot of, you know, but you got in my car and I'm listening to fucking 07. And so a lot of people that don't have black friends, that don't have experiences with black people, they don't know or have any real perception of what we are outside of what's portrayed in like mainstream media, which a lot of times is fucking negative stereotypes.
Sure. Yep.
So why I feel like podcasting is so powerful is because it does allow people to tell their own stories in the ways that they see fit, where you don't necessarily need to have the backing of some media conglomerate, where like you have an internet connection and you resonate with enough people, your shit's gonna spread.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you get to do the things the way you want to do them. So it can show, and it can like show that like, man, just like there are different types of people everywhere. Like we're not a monolith. You know what I'm saying? We have a myriad of interests. You know what I'm saying? And we can do a myriad of things. So I think that's another reason why I feel like this tool is so powerful, because it will allow us to do the things that we want to do and tell our stories in ways that we haven't necessarily been able to tell them before. Because it's like, and that's what I was talking about earlier, when you talk about the movies, like you just have shit about black struggle or slavery, you know what I'm saying, or racism or Martin Luther King or something like that. Well, there's just so much more to our history than that. Yep. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, so black people created jazz. You don't have a movie about that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like basically all original forms of music were created by black people. I know, because I didn't see the Elvis movie when my daughter saw it, and she was saying they alluded to how like he got his style from watching black musicians. Yeah. And taking directly from them. And so it's just, and it's not to say that we don't learn from each other. But we haven't always been given license to tell our stories the way we want to.
And this is it.
And I think this is the way to do that.
Unedited, this is the way unfiltered, unrestricted. As long as you don't play some bullshit copyrighted music, this is going to live and breathe on YouTube. If people can find you and they can relate to you personally, you know, man, this is, you said it the other day. I think it was just in text, but it was like, you know, I continually listen because I'm just kind of burnt out on music, just generally in life. And so I've just been listening to just a lot of podcasts, just, you know, maybe it's therapeutic, maybe it's whatever, but you text me and you're like, man, this is just such a powerful tool. I want to get this out to there to people. I want to talk to them about doing this, whether it's starting their own or whatever. And it got me thinking, like, this is at its very beginning, right? Absolutely. Like, I mean, yes, podcasts came so to light. YouTube channels came to light during COVID, right? But the power of podcasting, I feel like, is at the very beginning of where it's truly going to get to.
Well, we haven't even scratched the surface. Yeah. And that's what, and that's what's so exciting. And that's why, like, I really want to, like I said, because this is to me, this is where the media is going. And even when you think about, because like we talk about like mainstream media, it's really gotten to the point where it's almost like a lot of people don't trust those sources. But in terms of the podcasting space, people are just saying shit. And a lot of times they don't necessarily have journalistic integrity. Yeah. You know, they don't necessarily research, or they'll just pass off their opinions as fact. And a lot of times that can be very dangerous.
Yeah. Because people end up taking it like they, you know, I think, I mean, I would arguably speaking, Joe Rogan, probably the largest podcaster in the world, right? He got in some heat like a grip ago. But what people fail to mention is like, he started this in his fucking basement. Now he has a huge audience, so he has a responsibility to that audience and the general public. But he didn't realize that he was signing up for that. And he got into some like way, way heated shit, because now people, it's like the gospel. They go to him and then he says some shit that's just, he was like either wrong on some facts or maybe it was opinion based. And he had to come out and be very like, I fucked up. Like, yeah, okay, look, I'm not perfect. I'm not infallible. I'm a person just like all of you. I fucked up. But I mean, it was like cancel culture was coming after him hard. So you look at the power of that. That's one person that is doing this on the largest scale platform, right? But people start to really believe in you and start to take your word for, like I said it again, like they start to take it as the gospel. And it's like, so you have to be real cautious about your opinions. That being said, I still think that this gives you the ability to state your opinion if you truly believe that that opinion is what it is. Like nobody's going to come in and be like, oh, Jerayll thinks he can fly. Fuck it. He thinks he can fly. Cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to come in and just, that's what's good about it is I think that it's not edited. It's not restrictive, and it can really show people like who you are and start to kind of just get a better understanding of, everything really.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So like, we're just only continue to see it grow, and I just want to be a part of that growth, and I will be. I already am.
Yeah.
We are a part of the growth and the things that are going to happen. And like, this is going to look different next year.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, mainstream doesn't kind of get all its tentacles in it. You know what I'm saying?
Good luck.
Which it kind of tends to do,
Good luck,
and it's
right.
It's going to happen to a certain extent, but I'm going to find my place in it.
Sure. Yeah. I think you will, man. I think I'm excited to see where you take it. I'm real jazzed, man.
Same.
And I do give you credit, man. Thank you for putting up that video. And it was so honest, and it was humble. And it was like, look, this is just me. I'm in my fucking kitchen. Like there's my cameras on my kitchen island. My couch is over here. That's where I'm sitting. And it was like, it was cause I had kind of already prepped it, and it was like, all right, man, shit or get off the pot. Let's go. And that night I just started emailing people like, will you be on the show? Will you be on the show? And like a couple people picked it up, and it was like you, and then another person, and the boom was like, all right, now I got 9 guests to record. And it was like, I definitely got to give credit where credit's due. So thank you, man.
There's no time like the present, man. And you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? I said, we inspired, like I said, the conversation we had yesterday kind of like and helped to inspire me again, man. So, it's like we feed off each other. So
that's
I
awesome.
want to see you be successful. You know what I'm saying? In the same way, I'm sure you want me to be successful, and, and we can continue to build off of that.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm hoping to hop back on here in like a year and see where it's gone. You know what I mean? I'm obviously going to watch and be a connoisseur and look at the episodes, but I want to talk to you and see what that, I got, like, what's the struggles? What's the, how many wins and losses did you have in this next year? And I'm excited about that. So
there'll be some. Yeah, we'll definitely have plenty to talk about. I'm sure. I'm definitely sure of that.
Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, man.
It's been absolutely my pleasure to have you on the show. And if people want to reach out to you, you got any social handles that you want to throw out there? We'll obviously put them in the show notes, but if they want to reach out to you directly, where can they find you?
So there's Rell, RELL _ producer 914 at Instagram, and also 914 _media _group, also on Instagram. And yeah, man, you can find me there. Also, channel 914 on YouTube is where I post all of my episodes. Okay. So feel free to check that out, man.
That's awesome. And we're gonna get you hooked up with Buzzsprout. Because I want people, if they can't check you out on YouTube, I know you need to be there, but I also want you to be in people's ears if they're driving, right? So we'll get you hooked up with that. And now I'm glad to see you do this remote, right? Because I think the sky's the limit. I got
expanding the reach.
Yeah. Shit, if it's a 2-hour drive, save the gas. Shit's expensive. Do it remote.
No shit. No shit. Gas is so fucking expensive.
All right, brother. I love you, man. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.